Chapter 464. Wu Yin narrowed his eyes as he looked at Kurumi, who was happily interacting with the shepherd dog. He walked to Kurumi's side and squatted down to pet the dog. Wu Yan's expression suddenly changed. Not good. Wu Yan's sudden words stunned Kurumi, who was playing with the shepherd dog. She looked at Wu Yan with surprise and asked, "What's wrong?" Wu Yan's expression darkened. His eyes flashed with a terrifying light. "There's something wrong with this shepherd dog." "Is there a problem?" Kurumi was startled. After she reacted, she hurriedly stood up and patted the shepherd dog in a panic. "What's wrong? What's wrong? Is it sick?" "No." Wu Yan shook his head. "If I'm not wrong, this shepherd dog should have been infected with a virus." "Virus?" Kurumi's expression changed. I'm afraid it's the work of a..." Wu Yan said with a gloomy face, "I've seen this virus before. Although I don't know the name, I've seen AST people use it. The effect is terrible." "Then what should we do?" Kurumi frowned and tightened her grip on the shepherd dog in her arms. She was usually crazy, but at this moment, she looked like she couldn't make up her mind. This was because Kurumi liked animals too much. "It doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it," Kurumi said worriedly. "There's nothing wrong with this shepherd dog. However, there's a big problem." Wu Yan smiled bitterly. "The organism infected with this virus won't have any abnormalities. However, it will release a kind of gas." "Gas?" Wu Yan said in a deep voice, "A kind of gas that can kill the surrounding organisms." "Kill the surrounding organisms?" Kwang-san was startled. She abruptly turned her head to look at the shepherd dog that was still rubbing against her chest. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. "What you mean is that even we, that's right, we won't be spared either," Wu Yan said in a loud voice. He then stood up and looked at the shepherd dog. A murderous look flashed in his eyes. "Looks like I have no choice but to kill it." "What did you say?" Kwang-san's expression changed drastically. An ominous glint flashed across her wine-red eyes as she looked at Wu Yan. "You said you want to kill it?" Kwang-san's face was filled with madness. "That's right." Wu Yan raised his hand. Lightning flashed in his hand to prove his words. "Only by killing it will the virus die, and the death gas will not be born." Following Wu Yan's words, the atmosphere became heavy. The passers-by around them disappeared without a trace. Other than the two who are staring at each other, there is only a flock of sheep and a few shepherd dogs lingering in the area. After a long time, Kwang-san laughed. She stood up and looked at Wu Yan with an evil smile on her face. Sherdao is really something. It's rare to have a date, but you're talking about fighting and killing. It's so sad, so sad. There's nothing we can do about it." Wu Yan looked at Kwang-san's eyes without fear. "If we don't do this, the death gas will continue to be released." "So what?" Kwang-san smiled indifferently. "You and I won't die anyway, right?" Indeed, no matter how deadly the gas is, it's useless against Wu Yan, who has an immortal body, and Kwang-san, who has countless lives in the timeline. Wu Yan seemed to have expected Kwang-san's words. He sneered. "Yes, we won't die, but what about the sheep and shepherd dogs around us? What about the animals in this zoo?" Hearing this, Kwang-san's smile froze. The cold look in her eyes was replaced by a little bit of panic. Although it disappeared quickly, Wu Yan still saw it. "So, for the sake of those innocent animals, this shepherd dog." Wu Yan glanced at the shepherd dog coldly. "It must die." Kurumi's complexion slowly sank. Her wine-red pupils faintly flashed with a bit of madness. But more than that, there was hesitation and reluctance. She glanced at the shepherd dog beside her, who was wagging its tail at her. She gritted her teeth imperceptibly. "Do we have to do this? Then you say?" Wu Yan looked at Kwang-san mockingly. He said decisively, "Is there any other way to save those innocent lives except for killing the source?" Kwang-san's body trembled slightly. She looked around at the animals in the zoo. Her face was a little pale, and her hands were a little cold. For Kwang-san, if she had to kill a person, she would do it without hesitation because it was just food for her. But animals were the only thing she liked. Now she was faced with a choice. Kill the shepherd dog and save all the animals. Otherwise, they would have to leave this shepherd dog behind and all the other animals would die. To her, this choice was too cruel. While Kwang San was struggling in his heart, the shepherd dog suddenly barked, waking Kwang San up. Kwang San seemed to have gone crazy as he shouted, "No, no! You can't do this! Killing the source may not solve the problem. There must be another way. There must be a way to solve the problem without killing the source." Hearing Kwang San's words, Wu Yan's indifference and mockery disappeared in an instant. It was replaced by deep compassion. The lightning on his body also disappeared. "So, you also know that killing the source may not solve the problem. You will also look for other solutions?" Kwang San was stunned. She didn't understand what was going on. Her face was a little blank. Wu Yan's next words were like a bolt of lightning that hit her head. "You know this, so why are you so persistent in changing the past? Why do you want to go back to the past and erase the source?" "You..." Kwang San couldn't help but step back. She looked at Wu Yan with a shocked face. "How do you know?" Looking at Kwang San, Wu Yan sighed. "Kwang San, killing the source may not solve the problem. There must be a way to solve the problem without killing the source. Don't be obsessed with the wrong idea." Kwang San's body trembled. She raised her head and shouted crazily, "What do you understand? You don't understand anything." "I understand everything." Wu Yan rudely interrupted Kwang San and said loudly, "If you change the past, will the elves really cease to exist? Can you guarantee that there won't be another first elf in the future? With your brain, it's impossible that you don't understand this. You're just deceiving yourself." "That's not it. It's not like this." Kwang San stepped back step by step as if she had collapsed. She shouted at Wu Yan, "Only by killing the first elf can everything go back to the beginning. Everything can start over. Humans and elves shouldn't meet. The arrival of elves will only lead to sorrow. As long as we change everything. Yes, that's right." Kwang San raised her head. Her wine-red eyes were full of fanaticism and fascination. She looked at Wu Yan as if she was looking at the most beautiful treasure. She laughed wildly. "So, Sherdao, in order to change everything, I came here to find you. I want to become one with you. You are the best. The best." As Kwang San's voice sounded, the surrounding air seemed to become a little sticky. Kwang San reached out her hand to Wu Yan and smiled, "Be with me forever." Chapter 465. Be with me forever. A gentle breeze brushed past the scene, sweeping up a few green leaves. It swept past the two people who were facing each other from afar. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Looking at Kwang San, who was standing in front of him and reaching out her hand, Wu Yan sighed and said seriously, "If you mean be with me forever, then I refuse." Kwang San smiled like a flower. She didn't change her expression because of Wu Yan's words. However, her wine-red eyes shone with a scarlet light. Her smile became a bit ferocious. "Ah, Sherdao." Kwang San tilted her head and said with a smile, every time, you cruelly refuse me, but..." Kwang San raised her head. "I should have said that you can't refuse me." After saying that, a dark purple stream of air burst out from Kwang San's body. Black and purple ribbons revolved around Kwang San. Bits of black light emerged from Kwang San's body and floated into the air. At the same time, an evil and dark aura wrapped around Kwang San's body. Divine spiritual equipment? 3 times, Elohim. Following that shout, the dark aura around Kwang San's body dissipated. A gothic dress appeared on her body. Her long black hair was tied into 2 ponytails. Her wine-red right eye flashed with scarlet light. The golden clock on her left eye also started to spin. "Kwang San." Wu Yan gritted his teeth and shouted, "How long are you going to lie to yourself like this? Shut up." Kwang San coldly looked at Wu Yan. Her hands shook and a long and short gun and rifle appeared in her hands. She crossed her hands and raised her head. "No matter what, you are mine. You can't escape. You can't escape." Hearing Kwang San's crazy words, Wu Yan's anger rose. He waved his hand and countless scarlet spatial ripples appeared behind him, pointing at Kwang San. His wine-red eyes turned into a noble gold color and a violent pressure descended on this space. Since you insist on dreaming, then I will beat you awake even if I have to beat you. A voice that seemed to resound from the horizon echoed in this space. The pressure of a true ancestor mercilessly poured on Kwang San's body, causing her slender body to sink down. It was as if an entire sea of blood was pressing down on her body. A suffocating feeling swept through Kwang San's mind. The boundless anger of its master made this pressure seem like a real airflow. Kwang San felt like her body was being pressed down by a mountain, causing her bones to begin to creak. However, this kind of pressure not only didn't make Kwang San tremble, but she also couldn't help but laugh wildly. Her red and gold eyes stared straight at Wu Yen, who was like a demon god descending from the heavens. Her voice was full of infatuation and love as it came out of her mouth. Great. That's great. Sure enough, a scholar is the best. The best. I must have you. I must have you. Begin. Begin. At this time, Kwang San had completely lost her mind. There was only one thought left in her mind, and that was to obtain Wu Yen. A moment ago, the zoo was still quiet and serene. At this time, it was shrouded in a stormy atmosphere. The surrounding animals were like dinosaurs that had encountered the end of the world. They screamed in fear and fled into the distance. Soon, the entire scene was left with only a man and a woman in a confrontation. Just as the two of them were about to collide, a series of sonic booms resounded in the distant sky. The two of them who were about to fight paused and looked up. Seeing Tabichi Origami and the other armored girls, Wu Yen narrowed his golden eyes and he clicked his tongue in annoyance. It's them again? It wasn't just Wu Yen who was unhappy, Kwang San was also very unhappy. In the past, she wouldn't feel this way even if she was killed, but now, she felt this way. One can imagine how unhappy Kwang San was about the ST's appearance. After all, this is a very rare feast, and the opponent is the man she is infatuated with. The AST's members didn't seem to know that a battle almost happened in the direction they came from. They also didn't know how critical their appearance was. With the support of the ejector, the AST's members flew above Wu Yen and Kwang San. They didn't fly down, they didn't even shoot directly like before. Instead, they quietly guarded the sky and surrounded the two on the ground. Seeing this, Wu Yen frowned. He was very confused. AST's concept of killing elves is to kill. Why didn't they attack? Kurumi, on the other hand, seemed to know something. She turned her head to the side, attracting Wu Yan's attention. Wu Yan turned his head to look as well. The next moment, a figure entered his line of sight. Wu Yan was surprised. It was a petite girl of about 14 or 15 years of age with a bright face and a dark blue ponytail. She was wearing the same equipment as the members of AST, except that it was blue and white in color. There was a mole under her left eye, and her eyes were a slightly dark brown. The girl seemed to know the two of them, or rather, one of them. She stood there with an indifferent expression and looked at Kwang San, proving who she knew. Kwang San also knows this girl. No, it should be said that even Wu Yen knows her. Chogo Shina. She's the sister of the original protagonist, Itsuka Shido. In other words, she's Shiori's sister here. Seeing Chogo Shina, Wu Yan's confusion disappeared. He looked around at the AST that surrounded them in the sky. No wonder the AST members didn't attack. It's because of this trump card. Chogo Shina. The trump card of the army against the elves. In this world, other than Ratatosker, Do X Machine was a military enterprise that provided military equipment to the military and police forces all over the world. He was also one of the employees assigned to AST. Of course, based on her identity alone, AST wouldn't use Chogo Shina as the center to annihilate her. The real reason why AST members were willing to become a member of the encirclement was Chogo Shina's combat power. Chogo Shina may be only 14 or 15 years old, but in terms of combat power, even if everyone in AST worked together, they might not be able to defeat her. Of course, Chogo Shina's unique equipment contributed to this. However, Chogo Shina's combat power can't be ignored. Even Kwang-san is no match for Chogo-shina if she doesn't use angel. That's why Chogo-shina has killed Kwang-san countless times in the past. One can only imagine how strong Chogo-shina is. After all, in order to cultivate such a trump card, Chogo-shina was modified by Do X machine. She has less than 10 years left to live. Chogo-shina doesn't know about all of this. After filtering through all the information about Chogo-shina in his mind, Wu Yen couldn't help but frown. He looked at Chogo-shina, who's expressionless and emotionless. His golden eyes flashed. He felt a bit helpless. Since she's Shiori's sister, he can't just stand by and watch her die. Chapter 466. Inside the zoo, Wu Yen and Kurumi stood in the middle of an empty field, facing each other. Not far away from them is Chogo-shina, who is looking at Kurumi. In the sky, a group of AST members raised their cannons and aimed at the two on the ground, forming an encirclement. In the sky, Tabichi Origami scanned the two on the ground before stopping at Wu Yen. She was surprised by what she saw. Why would he appear here? What's wrong, Origami? Origami. The captain of AST turned around when she heard Origami's soft muttering. However, she did not hear Origami's words. Seeing that Origami had no intention of replying, she looked in the direction Origami was looking at. When the captain of AST saw Wu Yen, he couldn't help but frown. That guy, why does he look a bit like the red devil that descended a while ago and never appeared again? After saying that, the captain of A said something into the radio in his ear, then quickly shook his head. No, there's no trace of psychic waves on him. He shouldn't be the red devil. But why does he look so similar? Origami, you fought with the red devil before. Can you tell if that boy is the red devil that appeared once? The captain of AST asked Origami. Tabichi Origami didn't say anything. She turned her head away and didn't look at Wu Yen anymore. The captain of AST seemed to have understood the situation. Looks like he's not that mysterious, their devil. The captain of AST knows that Koichi Origami is hostile towards elves. If the other party is an elf, she wouldn't try to protect him. She might even attack him. When Koichi Origami didn't pay any attention to Wu Yen, she knew that the other party isn't the red devil she imagined him to be. However, the captain of S didn't notice that when Origami looked away, there was a complicated expression in her eyes. Hey, boy over there. The AST captain flew down and yelled at Wu Yen. It's dangerous here. Get out of here. On the ground, Wu Yen didn't know that when he first arrived in this world, he gained a new name. To be more precise, he gained a new nickname called their devil. Currently, he's looking at Chogo-shina not far away from him. His mind is spinning rapidly. Chogo-shina finally noticed Wu Yen. He glanced at Wu Yen, but he didn't change his expression. He told Kurumi, "Your appetite seems to have decreased a bit this time. I thought you would need at least 3 or 4 people to satisfy your appetite." Nightmare. Era. Kurumi glanced at Chogo-shina contemptuously and said, "What do you know? Sherdao is completely different from food." Chogo-shina opened his mouth and said in surprise, "This is the first time I've heard you talk about a human like that. Didn't you always treat humans as food?" Human? Kurumi smiled meaningfully and didn't say anything. She glanced at Wu Yen and said regretfully, "It seems my date with Sherdao can't go on." What a pity. Date? Chogo-shina frowned and glanced at Wu Yen. Chogo-shina felt the man in front of him wasn't an ordinary person. Disregarding everything else, if a normal person were to see a sky full of and himself, as well as Nightmare, who had revealed his spiritual equipment, even if they weren't scared to death, they would definitely be scared to death. However, the man in front of them, from the moment Nightmare revealed his spiritual equipment to the moment they appeared, let alone being scared, there wasn't even the slightest bit of surprise on his face. From the beginning to the end, he had a calm expression on his face. Coupled with Kurumi's previous words, Chogo-shina had a feeling that this man wasn't an ordinary person. At least, he wasn't like those ignorant people who were devoured by Nightmare. It seemed like this man had some understanding of elves and the like. With that in mind, Janamiya Shina's gaze towards Wu Yen wasn't as calm and indifferent as before. He glanced at Wu Yen before turning to Kurumi. "Anyway, since I'm here, whatever you want to do, stop it." Chong Gongzana's exposed light armor opened up 2 openings on his shoulder. At the same time, several small laser beams shot out from the openings towards Kurumi. Kurumi twisted her body and dodged to the side. However, the laser beams were like homing missiles. They made a turn in the air and persevered towards Kurumi. She had no choice but to keep dodging. For a moment, the scene of the laser beams chasing after Kurumi flashed across the scene. Kurumi repeatedly dodged the incoming laser beams and even flew up into the air. However, the AST members surrounded her tightly in the air, making it impossible for her to fly up again. She could only dodge in a small area. But soon, the laser beams became faster and faster. At some point, the laser beams finally caught up with Kurumi. Several laser beams mercilessly pierced through Kurumi's heart. Kurumi's eyes widened. Then she fell to the ground from the sky. Bang! The sound of her body hitting the ground resounded. The violent impact caused Kwang San to spit out a mouthful of blood. The blood dyed her face red. Blood slowly flowed out from her heart and dyed the ground red. In the sky, the AST members saw this scene. Even though they've seen it before, they still couldn't help but admire Chong Gongzana. In the past, AST had been dispatched many times, but never once did they manage to kill a fairy. However, Chong Gongzana did it. How could they not admire him? What they didn't know was that, strictly speaking, Chong Gongzana didn't actually kill the elf, because Kurumi had countless incarnations of herself in the timeline. She couldn't die unless all of her incarnations were destroyed, or her original body was killed. Unfortunately, when the AST people appeared, Kurumi had already been swapped out. In other words, the Kurumi on the ground was just a fake. The real Kurumi was nowhere to be found, Sherdao. On the ground, the dying Kurumi struggled to raise her head. Blood spurted out from her mouth. She reached out her hand to Wu Yen and said reluctantly, You are my thing. In the end, you will become mine. You can't refuse me. After saying that, Kurumi lost all her strength. Her hand that reached out to Wu Yen slowly fell down. Wu Yan's expression didn't change as he looked at Kurumi lying on the ground covered in blood. His calm demeanor surprised the AST members and Chong Miyashina. Inside, they didn't feel too good about it. He knew that the Kurson in front of him wasn't the real Kurson, but he was the Kurson from the past. In other words, the Kurson who was about to die was the real Kurson who came from the past to the present. She abandoned her past. Wu Yen looked up at the sky in a daze. Chapter 467. Seeing Kwang San on the verge of death, Chong Gongzana didn't stop. Instead, he pulled out a huge lightsaber and walked towards Kwang San, who was about to die on the ground step by step, as if he was afraid that Kwang San wouldn't die, and wanted to kill him completely. This was understandable. After all, Chong Gongzana had killed Kurumi many times in the past. However, every time Kurumi died, she would appear again and devour humans. Chong Gongzana had no choice but to do so. Chong Gongzana came before Kurumi with his lightsaber. He looked at Kurumi's pierced heart and bloodied face. There was no trace of pity in his eyes, only numbness. This was proof of Chong Gongzana's vicissitudes of life, and it also recorded the number of times he killed Kurumi. Raising the light sword in his hand, Chong Gongzhan planned to put the light sword on Kwang San's neck as usual and then cut her throat. Chong Gongzhan only hoped that this time, he could kill Kwang San completely and make her unable to come back to life. However, just as Chong Gongzhan was about to slash the light sword in her hand, a hand suddenly appeared beside her and grabbed her hand that was holding the sword. Chong Gongzhan was shocked. She subconsciously turned her head to look. Suddenly, she saw a face that had not changed at all from the beginning to the end. She was stunned. Not only her, but even the ST in the sky were stunned. What are you doing? Chong Gongzhan was puzzled. She knew that the man in front of her wasn't an ordinary person, but Kurumi wanted to eat him. Then why did he stop her from killing Kurumi? Glancing at Chong Gongzhan's puzzled expression, Wu Yen sighed. You don't need to comfort yourself with this method. After all, even if you do, you know that it's useless. Chong-gong Shina lowered his head and said expressionlessly, "You don't understand. Tokisaki Kurumi is a special elf. No matter how many times you kill her, she will come back to life. So you can kill her completely by doing this?" Wu Yen interrupted Chong-gong Shina's explanation. Chong-gong Shina was silent. Wu Yen didn't say anything else. He turned his head and looked at Kurumi, who was struggling to open her eyes. Wu Yen could see that Kurumi was fascinated by him, mocking Chong-gong Shina, indifferent to her impending death, and confusion about Wu Yan's behavior. Wu Yen bent down and reached out his hand to wipe the blood on Kurumi's face under everyone's puzzled, confused, and surprised eyes. Abandoning the past is the past, the past, the past, and the future. If you don't have the courage to accept the past, how can you go to the future? Of course, how can you change? Kurumi stared blankly at Wu Yen, who was gently wiping the blood on her face. Her mouth moved as if she wanted to say something. However, her body became cold and she gradually lost her strength, so she couldn't say anything. She could only stare blankly at Wu Yen. After wiping the blood off Kurumi's face, Wu Yen smiled and stroked Kurumi's cheek. "You're much prettier now." After that, Wu Yen looked at Kurumi absent-mindedly and murmured, "I really want to save you this time." Hearing that, Kurumi's slackened pupils became more focused. However, after a while, they began to slacken again. This time, they slackened faster. When the last bit of vitality was about to disappear, Kurumi looked deeply at Wu Yen. There was a hint of reluctance in her eyes, as if she couldn't bear to part with Wu Yen. Then, she completely disappeared. Wu Yan's hand paused. He touched her eyes and buried her unfocused pupils under her eyelids. Then, he slowly stood up. No one noticed that in a corner far away, a red figure was slowly retreating until it disappeared. Looking at Kurumi, who had completely lost all signs of life, Shina and the people from AST breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Then, they shifted their attention to the only person who was not related to them. Chongya Shina opened his mouth. He hesitated for a moment and then turned around. "Forget it. You'd better leave this place quickly. Although you don't look like you don't know anything, it's better if you don't tell anyone about what happened today." Wu Yen didn't have time to respond. The other members of AST were stunned. They looked at each other. Is it okay to let her go just like that? However, they didn't object. Just like what Chongya Shina said, it's fine if they don't tell anyone about what happened here. Even if they did, not many people would believe them. Wu Yen scratched his face and shrugged. He smiled and said, "Well, I do want to leave, but you'll have to come with me." Chongya Shina paused and turned around. He asked in confusion, "Why do I have to go with you? Are you threatening me?" Wu Yen rolled his eyes and said, "Why would I do that? What's in it for me?" "Then what do you want?" Chongya Shina was a little unhappy. If it wasn't for Wu Yan's extraordinary performance, Chongya Shina wouldn't have talked so much to a stranger. Of course, Wu Yan's next sentence made Chongya Shina lose his composure. Wu Yan looked at Chongya Shina with a smile and said, "Your sister wants you to go home for dinner." Chongya Shina was stunned. Looking at Shiori, who was standing in front of him, who looked 90% similar to him and looked a bit more mature, Chong-gong Shina became very excited and even his body began to tremble. "Sister." In the end, Chong-gong Zana couldn't hold back his excitement. He immediately jumped onto Shiori's body and wrapped his arms around her neck. He laughed happily. Everyone reacted differently when they heard Chong-gong-jin calling Shiori Wani-sama. Toka and Yobi were shocked. They still haven't recovered from the fact that Shiori has a younger sister. Kodori was a bit annoyed that her older sister got a younger sister out of nowhere. Wu Yen, on the other hand, felt a chill down his spine. If he wasn't 100% sure that this is the date battle world, if he wasn't 100% sure that the person rubbing his face against Shiori's chest is Chongya Shina, he would have thought that Chongya Shina is Kuriko when he heard that sweet Wani-sama. "Shina." Shiori hugged Shina happily. When Wu Yen called and said he found her sister, Shiori almost cut her finger while cutting fruit. After all, Shiori didn't remember having a sister. Of course, Kodori wasn't her biological sister. However, Shiori, who was waiting at home with doubts, believed 90% of Wu Yan's words the moment she saw Shina. Not only because Shina's face was very similar to hers, but also because the faint throbbing in her heart made Shirori believe that the child in front of her was her sister. Her biological sister. Maybe this is the so-called blood connection. Blood is thicker than water. Apart from Kotori, who was a little jealous, everyone couldn't help but smile at the sight of this pair of sisters who shared a 90% resemblance with each other. They had to admit that this scene was really heartwarming. Chapter 468. It has to be said that compared to siblings, sisters were undoubtedly much closer. In the original work, although Shinobu and Shido were very close, at most, they would hug each other. But if they were sisters, it was different. Shirori and Shina have been holding each other's hands ever since they recognized each other. If it wasn't for the fact that it's not time yet, the two sisters would have taken a bath together. Looking at the pair of sisters standing together with identical smiles on their faces, Wu Yan couldn't help but sigh. Shirori and Shina really look alike, of course. Shina proudly puffed up her chest. Because I'm Wani-sama's sister. Shirori, who's in Shiori's hand, laughed and waved her little hands. I wonder if you're born from the same mother or an illegitimate child. If they were ordinary sisters, they would definitely retort after hearing Shino's teasing. However, what was surprising was that the two sisters in front of them looked at each other in dismay after looking at each other. There was also a trace of confusion. Seeing such a situation, everyone was stunned. Even Sharona said weakly, "Could it be that Sharona was right? Shirori was just joking." "No, it's not like that." Shirori quickly waved her hand, but she still looked a bit confused. Even Shina was a bit frustrated. The reason why I didn't answer is because I don't have any memories of the past. She doesn't have any memories of the past. Shirori looked at Shina in surprise and held her hand tightly. "Shina, I lost my memories too. I didn't even know I had a sister like you." Kotori furrowed her brows. "Since you lost your memories, how did you know Wani-sama is your sister?" Shirori looked at Kotori strangely. Kotori's expression froze. She realized that she didn't act like a sister in front of Shirori. She immediately showed an innocent and cheerful smile. It's like she said those words without thinking. Wu Yan was secretly amused. Bang! In an instant, Wu Yan's snickering face turned green. "It's as ugly as a pile of shit." Everyone heard a faint sound and they turned their heads. "What's wrong?" Shido. Toka tilted her head and asked. If she heard correctly, the sound came from Wu Yan's body. No, it's nothing." Wu Yan shrugged his shoulders while forcing a smile on his face. The confused crowd turned their heads back to look at Wu Yan. At the same time, from an undetectable corner, a small foot that was stepping on top of Wu Yan's toe moved back, revealing Wu Yan's swollen toe that looked like a pig's trotter. Enduring the excruciating pain, Wu Yan looked at Kotori, who was standing beside him. Kotori flashed him a sweet smile. If it weren't for the black ribbons on her head, Wu Yan would have believed that the leg he just kicked wasn't hers. Who knows, maybe it wasn't her leg. "Kotori, you're so ruthless. Even if you're immortal, you shouldn't play around like this." With a true ancestor's powerful recovery ability, this small injury healed quickly. However, Wu Yan gnashed his teeth and looked at Kotori. Her bright smile made his anger rise. Bang! Kotori's expression changed. If Wu Yan's face turned green, Kotori's face turned crimson. "Why you?" Kotori angrily glared at Wu Yan. Everyone turned to look at Wu Yan and Kotori when they heard the commotion. "There's another sound just now." Toka wrinkled her nose, her crystal purple eyes scanned the two. And this time, it seems to be coming from Kotori. Under everyone's puzzled gaze, Kotori could only suppress the shame in her heart and forced an ugly smile. No. Toka, Yoshino, Shirori, and Shin Anna looked at each other with furrowed brows. They looked at Wu Yan, who was looking up at the sky, and then at Kotori, who was trying to force a smile on her face. Their instincts told them that they missed out on something. "It's really strange." Fur mumbled softly and lowered her head. Everyone could only helplessly turn their heads again. Although they felt that something had happened, they couldn't do anything about it since the person involved didn't want to talk about it. They could only bury their doubts in their hearts. Moreover, the most important thing now was the matter between Shina and Shirori. When everyone looked away, Kotori's smile fell. She touched her breasts and felt the burning sensation. She looked up to look for Wu Yen, but this time, Wu Yen was already beside Yoshino and carried her away. Damn it! Kotori cursed Wu Yen in her heart. If Shirori and the others weren't here, Kotori wouldn't have suffered such a loss. She could only comfort her breasts. At the same time, Shina handed a necklace with a picture on it to everyone. Inside the necklace, there's a picture of Shina and Shirori when they were young. Although I don't have any memories of the past, I will never mistake you for someone else. You and I are definitely biological sisters. We have the same father and mother, Zhen said with a firm look. Everyone could hear the conviction in her voice. That's right, although I don't remember Gina, but Gina gave me a very familiar and intimate feeling, so I believe that Gina is my little sister. Shirori hugged Gina and said, making Gina feel very touched. It's a pity that I can't find out about my parents. Shirji said disappointedly. She thought that her sister was with her parents. She didn't expect her sister to be the same as her. She wasn't with her parents. Speaking up to hear, Shirori suddenly thought of something and smiled at Shina. Right, Shina, where do you live now? Is there someone raising you? If so, Wani-sama has to pay a visit. Shina was stunned. Her face began to panic. She didn't know what to do. Should she tell her sister that she didn't have anyone to raise her and that she spent all these years training and fighting? Of course, that's impossible. That, Shirori. At this time, Wu Yen opened his mouth. Shina lives far away. I happened to meet her today and accidentally saw her necklace. That's why I brought her back. If you want to pay a visit now, it's a bit late. Maybe another day. Yes, Wanisma, let's talk about it another day. Shina quickly nodded. Although she didn't know what to do when another day comes, she had to deal with this first. I see. Shirori thought for a moment and then nodded unwillingly. That's good. I'll pay a visit to Shina's family another day. Shina breathed a sigh of relief. But soon she was distressed. What should she do when Wanisama comes to her house? She can't bring Wanisama to the company or AST. Wu Yen saw Jin-na's frustration, but he didn't say anything about it. He had his own plans. He can't let Jin-na go back to her house. Otherwise, Jin-na might be modified into something that's neither human nor ghost. It's better to let her stay here. Of course, he can also let her stay at home. But Wu Yen has an even better place for her to go. He can give Jin-na. Chapter 469. Shinya, who is in the middle of being intimate with Shirori, doesn't know that Wu Yen has already arranged her escape route. Shiori's words put her in a difficult position. Shinya, since you live so far away, why don't you stay here tonight? Shirori tightened her grip on Shinya's hand. She doesn't have any memories of Shinya, but Shinya is still her sister. Shirori has a lot of questions to ask Shinya about her life. Jin-na was put in a difficult position. After all, she was now a member of AST and lived in the workplace. If she did not return on time, it could be a big deal. Just like the military dormitory, nothing could be accomplished without rules. Even if Jin-na wanted to spend more time with Shirori, she had no choice but to reject her. Before Shinya can say anything, Wu Yen spoke again. Shirori, don't make things difficult for Shinya. If she doesn't go back tonight, her family will be worried. She's only 14 years old after all. If that's the case then, all right then. Shirori hesitated for a moment before she reluctantly let out a sigh. Then at least stay for dinner? Is that okay? Sister. This time, Jin-na didn't refuse and immediately agreed with a smile. Jin-na could feel her elder sister's love for her from her words. She was very moved and felt guilty that she couldn't agree to her elder sister's request. Now that it was just a meal, of course, Jin-na wouldn't refuse. Shirori nodded with satisfaction. Originally, I should have let you eat Shidao's dishes, but let me cook for you today. Okay, Shidao? Wu Yen nodded after hearing Shiori's words. Being lazy and not doing anything is a good thing. However, there are some people who are dissatisfied with this. Sigh. Toka and Kotori sighed with reluctance. Even Shinya looked pitiful. It's obvious that they want to eat Wu Yan's cooking more than Shiori's. Shirji put her hands on her waist and pouted. What do you mean by that? Is my cooking really that bad? It's not that bad. Sister's cooking is good too. Kotori said shyly. Toka sucked on her finger, her eyes watered. But Shido's cooking is better. Shirji rolled her eyes at the girls, turned her head away angrily, and walked to the kitchen. Then, I'll only cook for Shinya and Shido tonight. You guys don't have to eat. No! Toka, Kotori, and Shinya were shocked and begged for mercy. Shiori rolled her eyes when she saw their teary eyes. She didn't know what to do with them. Shiori entered the kitchen and he sat down on the sofa. Wu Yen tapped the back of his hand and he looked at Shinya. Shinya, I have something I want to say to you. The moment he said that, all 4 pairs of eyes landed on him at the same time. Their gazes seemed to have materialized and they pierced his face until his expression froze. What are you trying to do? Kotori narrowed her eyes. She stared at Wu Yen with a wary look. Wu Yen felt a little restless. Hey, what's with that look? Wu Yan's mouth twitched. I just want to talk to Shinya about something serious. Why are you looking at me like I'm an idiot? Is that so? Kotori is very skeptical of Wu Yan's words. She pursed her lips in disbelief. It's hard to tell if she's pissed at Wu Yen or if she's pissed at Shinobi. Maybe it's both. Kotori isn't as forgiving towards Shinya as she is towards the other elves. This sister who came out of nowhere made Kotori unhappy. She's not sure if it's because her sister's surname was stolen from her. As for Wu Yen, there are many things she's unhappy about. Kotori's nipples are still burning with pain. Wu Yan's face twitched, he slapped the table and said angrily. Do I look like the kind of person who would attack a girl I've only known for a day? Ha! Kotori sneered. She glanced at Wu Yen in disdain and mocked him. Then who was the one who attacked a sister you've only known for a day? Wu Yen choked, he couldn't find any words to refute her. His face fell and he wanted to cry but no tears came out. Well, who told him to have a criminal record? This time, I really have something to talk to you about. Wu Yen raised his hand weakly to defend himself. Kotori only snorted coldly. That. She lowered her head awkwardly. She really didn't know why the topic suddenly changed to such a strange place. At the moment, she could only embarrassedly interrupt. Big brother, what do you want to talk to me about? Oniai-sama. Lord Big Brother? Hearing this form of address, the expressions of the people present were all different. However, all of them contained a trace of strangeness. Looking at Jin-na, who seemed to have no idea what he had said and had a natural expression, everyone looked at each other. Wu Yen coughed and put on a serious face. Anyways, this title isn't bad. It feels good, Shinya. Wu Yen looked at Shinya seriously and said, if I'm not mistaken, you've been living in Deus Ex Machine ever since you lost your memory, right? Jin-na suddenly raised his head and said in surprise, You? How did you know? Deus Ex Machine? Kotori was also shocked. That military enterprise that provides equipment to military and police forces all over the world other than Ratatosker, the Deus Ex Machine Company? Kotori's words made Shinya even more shocked. How did you know about it? Shinya. Wu Yen stood up and walked up to Shinya. He said seriously, if possible, I hope you can leave Deus Ex Machine. What? Shinya looked at Wu Yen and he shook his head without hesitation. That's impossible. Kotori couldn't help but frown. Why would you want to stay in a black-hearted company like that? Yeah, black-hearted company. Shinya's eyes flickered. But it's this black-hearted company that gave me a place to stay and a reason to exist after I lost my memory. Shinya, you're wrong. Wu Yen looked straight into Shinya's eyes and said something shocking. Do you know that they've already modified your body inhumanely? You only have 10 years left to live. What? Kotori and the others were dumbfounded. Then they shook their heads desperately. No, you're lying. Do you think I need to lie to you? Wu Yen looked at Shinya. Whether your body has been modified or not, a simple examination will reveal the truth. Do you think I would tell such an easily exposed lie? Shinya took 2 steps back. Her face was full of disbelief. Her delicate body trembled. Her eyes were filled with unprecedented fluctuations as if she was about to collapse. 10 years. Shinya looked at his hands. His eyes were filled with sadness. He didn't expect that he would receive such a piece of news when he just met his family. Even Kotori, Toka, and Yoshino couldn't help but turn their heads away. Wu Yen looked at Shinya's expression. Well, Shinya, you don't need to worry about your lifespan. I have a way to restore you to normal. Hearing this, Jinna's face looked much better, but there was still an indelible sadness in her eyes. She really didn't expect that the place she had always been grateful to would treat her like this. Exhaling, Wu Yen placed his hand on Shinna's shoulder. Shinna, join Ratatosker. Ratatosker? Shinna was stunned once again. Chapter 470. In the kitchen, Shiori is humming a little song. She finished all the work at hand and put down the spatula. Looking at the table full of dishes, Shiori nodded with satisfaction. She took off her apron and walked out of the kitchen. It's time to eat. Shiori came to the hall and said to everyone with a smile. In front of her, Wu Yen, Kotori, Toka, Yoshino, and Shinna are chatting happily. Shiori can't help but smile. Yes. Wani-sama. Jinna stood up and said happily, Big sister's personal cooking is really something to look forward to. Hee, I'm very confident in my own craftsmanship. Shiori straightened her back but then said with a bit of frustration, although compared to Shido's cooking, my cooking is only at the level of unpalatable. No way. The dishes made by sister will definitely be delicious. Jinna hurriedly said, which made the disheartened Shiori burst into laughter. All right, you don't need to console me. Shido's cooking is at the level of a monster. It's a bit unfair to compare me to him. She rolled her eyes at Wu Yen, who was standing not too far away from her. Wu Yen chuckled in embarrassment. Okay, let's eat. Shirji said with a smile. Almost at the same time, Shirji stood up impatiently and pounced toward the table. Jinna was startled and hurriedly followed her. Seeing this, Shiori let out a sigh of relief and said emotionally, I never thought I would have a long-lost sister. Hearing Shiori's words, Wu Yen and Kotori, who stood up from the sofa, stiffened. They laughed dryly and pretended they didn't hear anything. They pulled Yoshino and walked to the table. Shiori laughed. Shiori's heart warmed as she looked at everyone eating. She likes this warm feeling very much. Perhaps this is what they mean by, happiness comes from dullness. Of course, Shiori didn't know that when she thought it was dullness, there was a very unusual conversation going on in the hall where she stood. Looking at Shinna, who is happily eating Shiori's cooking, Wu Yen didn't show any expression on his face, but he inwardly released a sigh of relief. Just now, when he proposed to let Shinna join Ratatosker, Shinna's reaction was quite intense. Shinna didn't know much about Ratatosker, but he knew that it was an organization on par with Duex Machine. Shinna didn't expect her sister's family members to be members of such an organization. Plus, she got to know about herself from Wu Yan's mouth. Shinna's reaction is a bit big. When Wu Yen told Shinna the purpose of Ratatosker, which is to say, the plan to save the elves, Shinna's body trembled. Before this, Shinra accepted the idea that if you encounter a fairy, you have to kill them. She killed Kurumi so many times that her heart was numb from all the killing. Now Wu Yen wants her to join an organization that saves fairies. Is there anything more laughable than this in the world? Thus, she rejected Wu Yan's invitation. She even made up her mind to never meddle in the affairs of the elves ever again. Of course, the moment this thought appeared, it was shattered by the following events. Toka, a naive foodie, Yoshino, and a shy little girl. Shinna had a good impression of these 2 girls when she first met them. They were elves. Although they only got along for less than an hour, Zhao Hai could feel that Toka and Yoshino were very friendly towards him. They were also very kind-hearted. These 2 kind-hearted girls were actually elves. Elves just like Kurumi's perverted elf. Elves, aren't they a special species that brings disaster? At this moment, Shinna's view of elves was shaken like never before. If they are such elves, should she help them or not? When Shina was hesitating, Wu Yan's next words made her completely abandon her hesitation. If the elves' affairs are not properly handled, it will lead to a big disaster. Do you have the heart to see Shiori get involved in such an incident? When these words reached Shina's ears, Shina no longer hesitated and immediately agreed. Whether it was killing elves or saving elves, as long as he could ensure his sister's safety, he was willing to do anything. After being betrayed by Toka, Shina only has her dearest sister left in her heart. Moreover, Wu Yen and Kotori don't look like the elves in Toka who are difficult to get along with. Because of this, Shina officially joined Ratatoskr and became a general under Wu Yan's command. After all, Shina's combat power is so strong that even some of the weaker elves are no match for her. In terms of combat power alone, not counting the elves, she's definitely at the top of Ratatoskr. Only Wu Yan can stand on the same level as her. If she doesn't use her combat power, she'll be struck by lightning. As for the advanced equipment that belonged to the Du Color X machine, there was no reason for him to return it. After dealing with Shina's matter, Wu Yan can finally breathe a sigh of relief. As for Shina's body, this is the easiest thing to deal with. There's still a large bottle of gene recovery fluid left in his gate of Babylon. With the addition of Shina, the Itsuka family became a lot livelier. It used to be just Shiori and Kotori, but now Wu Yen is the elder brother, Shina is the younger sister, and Toka and Yokoi are the two elves. Shiori and Kotori couldn't have imagined such a lively scene in the past. Of course, the two of them didn't hate this kind of feeling after dinner. Wu Yen and Kotori used the excuse of sending Shina off to Fraxinus. Rain Murasame was in charge of taking care of Shina. Shina also got to know Yatsuki Chinyu, who is also in the same unit as her. With the help of the gene reagent, Shina recovered to her peak condition. Shina naturally moved into Fraxinus. Shina wasn't happy with this arrangement. It's not that Fraxinus isn't a good place to live, it's just that compared to living here, Shina would rather live in Itsuka's house. Unfortunately, the Itsuka family's territory isn't that big. After Wu Yen, Toka, and Yoshino moved in, the Itsuka family's territory is pretty much full. Shinya had no choice but to give up on this idea. Finally, the matter reached a happy ending for everyone, of course. This is only on the surface. Nighttime, Shiori's room in Itsuka's house. Shiori wiped her hair and was about to change into her pajamas when she suddenly felt a sharp pain in the back of her head. Then, Shiori completely lost her consciousness. Inside Toka and Yoshino's room, the two women who were sleeping on the bed disappeared after a strange whirlwind came in from the window. At the same time, in Kotori's room, a red shadow suddenly appeared in front of the bed. Kotori, who was sleeping on the bed, heard the noise and opened her eyes. Her pupils shrunk when she saw the figure in front of her. "It's you!" In the darkness, the red shadow cackled wickedly and slowly walked out of the shadows. Kotori saw a pair of eyes, one gold and one red. Chapter 471. The next morning, just as dawn broke, in Wu Yan's room, Wu Yan opened his eyes and woke up from his sleep. This was simply an incredible thing. Almost everyone who was familiar with Wu Yan knew that Wu Yan's attachment to his bed was almost no less than 3 meals. In the past, if he was not woken up, he would wake up naturally. Otherwise, if there was nothing, Wu Yan would absolutely not get up so early. However, today was different. Sitting up from the bed, Wu Yan glanced at the sky outside the window. It was only a little bright. He touched his chest and frowned deeply. Usually at this time, Wu Yan's sleepiness was even stronger than a pig. If he did not sleep enough, he would only be woken up. However, the current Wu Yan did not have a trace of sleepiness at all, not even a little bit. Just now, Wu Yan, who was still immersed in his sleep, was awakened by a dull feeling for no reason. After waking up, a bad premonition arose in his heart. It was as if he had missed something important. A hint of worry flashed in his wine-red pupils. Wu Yan's face also showed an unresolvable worry. Wu Yan could feel that his abnormal behavior today was definitely not without reason. There must be something with this thought. The dull feeling in Wu Yan's heart became even stronger. Immediately, Wu Yan directly got up from the bed and walked towards the door. However, just as the door was opened by him, the scene that appeared in front of him made Wu Yan's pair of pupils shrink fiercely. He saw that a layer of dark purple shadow was covering the position of his room door, and it also extended to the floor and the ceiling. It was like a layer of film, wrapping his room inside. His heart slowly sank, Wu Yan's face turned ugly. In this situation, coupled with his intuition, even a fool would know that something must have happened. Bang! With a muffled sound, the dark purple film wrapping around Wu Yan's room exploded into little sparks and disappeared into the air. At the same time, Wu Yan's figure flashed out of it. The moment the membrane disappeared, Wu Yan's expression changed. He can feel that there isn't a single trace of life in Itsuka's house. In other words, he's the only one left in Itsuka's house. The bad premonition in his heart completely rushed to Wu Yan's heart. Wu Yan's face turned ugly to the extreme. He suddenly leaped out and arrived at Kotori's room. Kotori! The door was violently opened, and the scene in Kotori's room was imprinted in Wu Yan's eyes. It was exactly the same as Wu Yan's impression of Kotori's room, but Kotori was gone. Wu Yan's face turned gloomy. After leaving Kotori's room, Wu Yan used his speed to the extreme and went to Toka, Yoshino, and Shiori's room. But without exception, there were no familiar figures in these rooms. Not only Kotori, but even Toka, Yoshino, and Shiori also disappeared. Combined with the strange film from before and the current phenomenon, there was only one explanation. Kotori and the others were very likely kidnapped. Standing in the middle of the hall, Zhang Tai glanced around the entire Wu He residence. The usual noises in the morning had disappeared completely. The entire Wu He residence was unusually quiet. If someone were to stand in this quiet atmosphere, they would probably lose their mind due to the terrifying pressure that engulfed the entire Wu He residence. The surrounding air seems to have turned into a solid blood aura, glowing red and floating back and forth in the entire hall. Wu Yan raised his head, his face was terrifyingly gloomy. Bright golden light flashed in his wine-red eyes, murderous intent and ferocious aura swept across his eyes. At this moment, this pair of beautiful eyes turned into the most deadly coldness. Wu Yan's chest heaved up and down as he breathed heavily, forcing himself to calm down. But the anger in his chest couldn't be suppressed at all. The more he suppressed it, the fiercer it rebounded. Until Wu Yan's ear, the wireless headset that he never took off, sounded. Only then did the terrifying pressure that pervaded the entire Itsuka house was suppressed. "Sir, can you hear me? Sir?" Ling Yin. Wu Yan's entire body trembled. He quickly pressed down on the wireless headset and shouted, "Ling Yin, it's me." After Wu Yan's voice sounded, Ling Yin's relieved voice sounded from the other side of the wireless headset. "That's great. You finally replied. Ling Yin, what in the world happened? From what you've been saying, it sounds like you've been looking for me. Kotori, Toka, Shiori, and the others are all missing. Do you know what's going on? Hurry up and tell me." "Calm down first." Ling Yin's emotionless voice sounded from the other side of the headset, calming down Wu Yan's boundless impatience a little. "Ling Yin, what happened?" "Tashisaki Kurumi." Ling Yin's words caused Wu Yan's expression to change again. "Last night, Tashisaki Kurumi kidnapped Kotori, Toka, Shiori, and the others. We received Kotori's distress signal in Fraxinus, but it was cut off as soon as it rang. The only thing we could receive was Tashisaki Kurumi's name. We couldn't contact you, so we thought you were in Tashisaki Kurumi's hands." "Kurumi." Wu Yan lowered his head, the anger in his heart is rising. No wonder Tashisaki was able to kidnap Kotori and the others without anyone noticing. If it was Kurumi, then it wouldn't be that strange. The dark purple membrane around his room was probably set up by Kurumi to block his senses, right? It's also because of that layer that Ling Yin and the others couldn't contact him. I was tricked, Wu Yan said with a cold smile. Ling Yin couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. She knows Wu Yan is really angry this time. "I can let you do whatever you want. I can also let you reveal your desire to eat me all the time because I know you're also a pitiful person." However, Quan, this time, you've really pissed me off. A pitiful person must have a hateful side. You shouldn't have done anything to the people around me. Looking at the ceiling, Wu Yan finished his speech without any fluctuation in his tone. Ling Yin, who is far above Tiangong City, could feel the anger hidden beneath that calm tone. It's like the calm before the storm, the pressure before the eruption of a volcano. It's enough to send chills down one's spine. Ling Yin, did you find Kurumi's location? Suppressing his anger, Wu Yan calmed himself down before he told Ling Yin. Since Kurumi went to great lengths to cut off the connection between his room and the outside world, and didn't do anything to him, but kidnapped Kotori and the others, there was no doubt that her true goal was him. Just like in the original work, Kurumi threatened Itsuka Shido with the lives of all the students of Dokurai Zen High School. Perhaps, in her eyes, this was just a game. But, for Wu Yan, this is a reverse scale that cannot be touched. In the command room of Fraxinus, Ling Yin looked up at the coordinates displayed on the big screen and said, "We found it not long ago. We couldn't contact you, so Zhen Na and Yi Yu went there first." What? Wu Yan is shocked. No one knows Kurumi's true power better than he does. Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu couldn't possibly win against Kurumi. Forget about saving Kotori and the others, they might even get themselves killed. Kurumi isn't the type to show mercy. Ling Yin, where is Kurumi? She's in the zoo where you were dating yesterday. Chapter 472. Heavenly Palace City. In a zoo, today, for some reason, the people in the zoo had all disappeared. Even the animals had disappeared. The entire zoo was deathly silent. Kurumi is standing in an open space in the zoo. She's wearing a black princess dress. She's looking at the ground with an evil smile. Kotori, Toka, Shiori, and Toka are being grabbed by a pale red arm. They can't move at all. You've really put in a lot of effort, Tokasaki Kurumi. Kotori raised her head and looked at Kurumi. Her expression didn't change at all, as if she wasn't the one being held hostage. She didn't seem to care about her own safety. Her tone was filled with mockery. Despicable. Kurumi. Toka is struggling. She's trying to get rid of the arm that's grabbing her. But the arm that's supposed to be weak is like a vice. It's holding her down. She can't get away. Next to the two, Yoshino shrunk his body in fear and hid behind Toka and Kotori. As for Shiori, she's still unconscious. Kurumi's smile is evil as she watched Toka's struggle. It's useless, you've lost your power, you can't get rid of me no matter what. It's better for you to lie down and save your energy. What's your goal? Kotori coldly looked at Kurumi and said, "If I'm not mistaken, it's Shido, right?" Shido. Toka is shocked. She turned around and yelled at Kurumi, "Kurumi, I won't allow you to hurt Shido." Toka-san, you're wrong." Kurumi took 2 steps forward and looked at Toka like a shy little girl. She said, "Why would I hurt Shido?" "You won't hurt Shido." Kotori curled her lips and sneered. She didn't say anything, but the disbelief on her face is obvious. "You won't understand my feelings for Shirdao." Kurumi touched Toka's cheek and ignored her resistance. She smiled and said, "Shirdao is different. For me, Shirdao is the best existence. How can I hurt him? After all, Shirdao is destined to be with me forever. Together forever." Kotori abruptly raised her head. "Your so-called forever together is to use the City of Time Eclipse to devour Shido, right?" "No." Kurumi closed her eyes and said, "City of Time Eclipse is used to deal with food. Shido is so great, how can we treat him like food?" After saying that, Kwang-san's face turned ferocious as he laughed wildly. "I brought you here because I want to eat Shirdao. After all, Shirdao is very disobedient." Toka clenched her teeth and shouted, "You really want to hurt Shido? Well, you guys just stay here and watch." Kwang-san tapped her lips and smiled. "My date with Shirdao will continue. I want you to witness the moment Shirdao and I become one." "Kurumi." Toka roared. Kotori bit her lips. She looked anxious. Yono, who was hiding behind them, started struggling. She's a coward, but she didn't want to let someone hurt Wu Yan. She didn't want to let fear get the better of her. At this time, an illusory flash of light flashed in front of the open space, attracting the attention of everyone present. In that flash of light, two figures gradually appeared. It's Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu. Wani-sama. Looking at Shirori lying on the ground without any signs of movement, she anxiously shouted and rushed over. Yatsuki Chinyu also saw Kotori. Just as he wanted to go over, both of them were blocked by a figure at the same time. You're still as annoying as before. Kurumi looked at Shina and said indifferently. A murderous aura leaked out from her wine-red pupils. For Kurumi, if Shina still wanted to destroy the banquet like before, then she wouldn't die obediently again. It's you again. Zhen-Na looked at Kwang-san with hatred. He pulled out a mechanical sword from behind his back. With a slight sound, a blue and white light sword flew out from the sword. Era, so scary. Kurumi laughed, but the madness in her voice sent a chill down Yue Chinyu's spine. Yue Chinyu could clearly feel that every time he wanted to move towards Kotori and the others, a sense of dread would appear in his heart. Yatsuki Chinyu knew that Kurumi didn't ignore him at all. If he went to save the commander, he would suffer the most fatal blow. Therefore, Yatsuki Chinyu could only take 2 steps back, raised his sniper rifle, and aimed at Kurumi. If he doesn't defeat Kurumi first, he won't be able to save the others. This point, not only Yatsuki Chinyu, but also Shina. Seeing the two's actions, Kwang-san laughed. She laughed so hard that her delicate body trembled. Don't tell me you still think you can kill me like before? Shina didn't say anything. She tightened her grip on her sword. It's different now. When she was still a member of AST, she would never show mercy to Kurumi. But now, she's a member of Ratatosker. She's not going to kill the elves like before, she's going to save them. However, Shina didn't want to be passive. If Kurumi wants to hurt Shirori, then she'll chop off her head like before. Anyway, with Kurumi's previous performance, she won't die. Let them go now. Shina shouted. Let them go. Kurumi looked at Kotori and the others, licked her lips and nodded. Sure, I just need Shido. Even though they looked delicious, hearing this, Shina didn't relax her vigilance. Instead, she became even more cautious. Sure enough, Kurumi quickly smiled and said, however, they are the most important guests of this banquet. How can they leave their seats before the banquet is over? Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu's face sank. That's not up to you. Kurumi's shoulders drooped as she once again laughed wildly. Ah, really, every time you come to disturb me, it's really rude, really rude. But that's good too. Kwang-san smiled. Then, a scarlet blood light flashed in her wine-red eyes, causing her beautiful face to become extremely lustful. Before the real feast begins, let me have a prelude to the feast with you. After saying that, Kwang-san took a step back. Her body slightly swayed as she made a circle on the spot. Along with her movement, a weird purple-black chi flow suddenly rose from under her feet and wrapped around her body, causing her noble princess dress to flutter. At the same time, Kurumi closed her eyes. Dots of black light emerged from her body and quickly formed a black cocoon, wrapping Kurumi's body. A gloomy aura drifted out from the cocoon and reverberated in the open space, causing Kotori and the others' faces to turn slightly pale. Shina was fine. After all, they've faced each other many times, and she's strong enough. As for Yatsuki Chinyu behind Shina, he felt a bit heavy. After all, this is the first time Yatsuki Chinyu faced an elf. When Kurumi appeared in front of everyone again, her appearance has completely changed. She's wearing a red and black gothic dress, her long hair turned into 2 ponytails, and a golden clock eye appeared. Coupled with her revealing dress, she's extremely charming. Divine power equipment? 3 times Elohim. Chapter 474. When the blood dripped to the ground, Kotori, Toka, and Yoshino finally reacted. They looked at Kurumi with a complicated expression. After all, she's an elf. At this moment, Kwang-san was floating in the air. Her chest was bleeding because of Yue Chinyu's spear. And in front of her body, there was a wound from her shoulder to her ribs. The originally blood-colored gothic dress was completely dyed red. Blood dripped down like water, and soon, the ground beneath Kwang 3 was dyed red as well. Even an elf wouldn't be able to move after receiving this kind of injury. However, Kurumi looked at the blood on her body with difficulty and grinned. The deep laughter sounded like the howling of evil spirits from hell spreading over the entire open space. The strange laughter, which was low but extremely harsh, passed into the ears of Jina, who was still in a chopping posture, causing her to frown. Kwang San stretched out her hand and touched her body. Scarlet blood stained her hand. She raised it in front of her eyes and looked at it. However, Kwang San's expression didn't change at all. Instead, it was as if she had seen something amazing. She smiled excitedly. "Good job, you guys." Kurumi ignored her bleeding wound and grinned at Shina and Yuechinyu. She didn't care about it. I didn't expect that after I summoned Zafkiel, you could still beat me up like this." Not bad at all." Hearing Kurumi's words, Zhen Na and Yuechinyu's hearts tightened at the same time. They involuntarily clenched their weapons and vigilantly looked at Kurumi, who was fatally injured. They could feel that at this moment, Kurumi seemed to be different, but... Kurumi raised her head, her wine-red eyes flashed with a terrifying light. Then she raised her rifle and shot at Shina, sending him flying again. "That's not enough to meddle in my and Shidao's banquet. It's not enough." Zhen Na didn't expect that Kwang San could still move after suffering such an injury. In a hurry, he was caught off guard and fell in front of Yuechinyu. When Zhen Na stabilized his body and looked up at Kwang San in the air, Kwang San had already made a new move. Ignoring the bleeding wound in front of her, Kwang San spread out her hands. Along with her movement, the illusory wheel on the huge clock behind her also sped up. Bullet of 4-inch on the huge clock, the number 4 suddenly lit up, black and red airflow rolled out and flowed into the pistol in Kurumi's hand. She didn't even think about it. She pressed the pistol against her temple and pulled the trigger. With a gunshot, the bleeding wound on Kurumi's body began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the bullet wound on her chest slowly disappeared with the gunshot. In the end, Kurumi's body, even her broken gothic dress, became intact. Seeing this, everyone on the ground couldn't help but bite their lips. Even Kotori and Yuechinyu, who saw the battle between Wu Yen and Kurumi on the big screen in the command room of Fraxinus, had the same feeling. At this moment, everyone on the scene had the same feeling, that is, this is going to be tricky. Bullet of 1. The familiar sound echoed. Shinya and Yuechinyu, who have already seen the bullet of 1, already had a change in expression. Shinya yelled and crouched down. The armor on his body emitted a green light, and then a green crystal barrier like a hornet's nest covered Shinya's body. Almost at the same time, a black bullet hit the green barrier, causing a ripple. Kurumi appeared next to Shinya and shot again, shattering the crystal barrier. The barrier was shattered, but Shinya didn't retreat. Instead, his lightsaber pierced through the sky and pierced towards Kurumi. Clang! A short pistol was pressed against the front end of the light sword, blocking the attack of the light sword. The crisp sound of weapons clashing rang out, and a huge force was transmitted from the weapons of both sides to each other, causing both sides to separate. Hee. Kurumi giggled, and the number 7 on the huge clock behind her lit up. Black and red airflow flowed into her rifle, and Kurumi raised it towards the retreating Shinya. Bullet of 7, Zain. The black bullet hit Shinya, making her heart tremble. She didn't forget the consequence of being hit by the bullet of 7-in. If not for Yuechinyu's help, she would have been defeated long ago. Therefore, after making sure that she couldn't dodge the bullet, she directly waved her lightsaber and chopped the bullet of 7-in. However, when the black bullet broke, another black bullet passed through the lightsaber in Shinya's hand and hit her body. Shinya didn't even have time to react. The transparent black barrier shrouded her and froze her movement. Oh no! Yuechinyu was shocked. He didn't care about anything else and aimed his sniper rifle at Kwang San. However, just as Yuechinyu was about to pull the trigger, a voice came from behind. It shocked him. "Where are you looking?" Evil laughter came from behind Yuechinyu, and in the next second, a gunshot sounded, and Yuechinyu felt a sharp pain in his back. Yuechinyu knelt on the ground. There was a bloody hole on his back, blood has stained his clothes. Yayuechinyu turned his head. He saw Kurumi's familiar dark red figure and a clear mocking smile. Yayuechinyu's forehead was covered in cold sweat, his hand on the ground, gasping for breath. He looked at Kurumi in front of him and Shinya. He bitterly smiled. Lei Feng? At the same time, several gunshots sounded from Shinya's side, and then Shinya fell to the ground after Yayuechinyu. Shinya and Yayuechinyu, who had the absolute advantage, in the blink of an eye, collapsed to the ground. It's over, the two Kwangsons said in unison. They even raised their rifles and pointed them at the space between the two people's eyebrows. Shinya. Yayue. Ta Shang's voice trembled. She desperately struggled. Damn it. Kotori cut off the red glow on her body and glanced at her arm. She then glanced at the sealing bracelet in her hand. If it was possible, Kotori would like to release her power. That way, Kotori is confident she can defeat Kurumi. But reality was cruel. Kotori in this world wasn't the original Kotori. She could retrieve her power whenever she wanted. Without the permission of the other pair of sealing bracelets, Kotori would never be able to retrieve her power for the rest of her life. The problem is the pair of sealing bracelets doesn't exist, at least for now. If Ta Shang and the others. Kotori looked at Ta Shang and Yoshino. They are powerless. They can't break the seal either. It's reasonable. Wu Yen hasn't arrived yet. He wouldn't dare to break the seal before he knows the situation of Ta Shang and the others. If something went wrong, Kwang San might be scared after the seal was broken. Kwang San might even make the first move to gain the upper hand. Those glowing red arms weren't just capable of grabbing people. Are we just going to watch? Kotori's face is gloomy. She turned to look at Shinya and Yayuechinyu, who are struggling to get up. Kotori shouted, Oni Ai-chan. Boom. The moment Kotori shouted, an orange beam fell from the sky. It hit Kurumi in front of Yayuechinyu. Chapter 475. The orange light flashed in everyone's eyes. They couldn't help but squint their eyes. In the blink of an eye, the orange light beam has already reached Kurumi's back. The orange beam mercilessly pierced through Kwang San's body. It went through his back and came out of his chest, tearing a bloody hole in his body like it was made of rotten wood. Then in the sky, a red lotus fire pillar appeared out of thin air, following the path of the orange light beam. Under everyone's gaze, it fell on Kwang San, whose body had been pierced by the orange light beam. Kwang San, who was in front of Yayuechinyu, did not have time to realize what kind of attack he had suffered. Under the red lotus fire pillar, he turned into ashes. Oni! Kotori looked up at the sky in surprise. She didn't recognize the orange light beam because she never saw it before, but the red lotus fire, in her memory, only one person can use it. Hearing Kotori's cry, Toka, Yoshino, Yatsuki, and Shina also showed a surprised expression. Even Kurumi looked up with joy, looking at the direction of the light beam and the fire pillar falling down. In everyone's eyes, a figure was floating in the sky. He stood in the void and walked down step by step as if he was walking on flat ground. His full appearance was exposed to everyone's eyes. His black clothes fluttered with the wind. Under the gentle breeze, a whistling sound reverberated. His hand held a light sword that was filled with a scorching hot and ancient aura. He slowly walked down from the sky in this manner. His figure slowly revealed itself. A face that was as calm as an ancient well, but contained an unusual pressure, also appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Shido, brother Shido. Toka and Yoshino couldn't help but call out. Their voices were full of joy, as if the appearance of this person can solve all problems. Captain. Shina, Yatsuki, and Shina also endured the pain all over their body, looked up at the figure in the sky. Have to say, Wu Yan's appearance is really reassuring. Kurumi let out a soft cry, looked at Wu Yan, and smiled sweetly. Sherdao, you're finally here. In mid-air, Wu Yan's wine-red eyes swept across the ground. He didn't even look at Kurumi. Instead, he looked at Kotori, Toka, Shiori, and Toka. After making sure that the four women were safe, Wu Yan felt relieved. Then he looked at Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu. Wu Yan frowned when he saw the bullet holes on their bodies. He sighed. In the end, even though he got the news and used the teleportation device in Fraxinus, he was still a step too late. Wu Yan didn't know that Kotori and the others were kidnapped when Shina and Yuzuki Chinyu moved out of the room. When Wu Yan came out of the room, Shina and Yuzuki Chinyu had already arrived at the scene and confronted Kurumi. So, no matter how fast Wu Yan was, he couldn't catch up with the two. Fortunately, he arrived just before the two were about to be killed. Otherwise, Shina and Yuzuki Chinyu would have died. Finally, Wu Yan looked at Kurumi. Looking at the dark red figure in the gothic dress, Wu Yan's wine-red eyes inevitably flashed red. A monstrous pressure fell from the sky and shrouded the whole place. Kurumi. Wu Yan looked at Kurumi and said without any fluctuation in his tone. This time, you went too far. Hearing Wu Yan's tone as if he's talking to a stranger, Kurumi shuddered. She thought that Wu Yan would roar in anger and attack without saying anything, but she didn't expect Wu Yan to be so calm. This made Kurumi feel uneasy. But this trace of uneasiness was quickly suppressed by the joy in Kurumi's heart. She smiled at Wu Yan and said, "Taira, Shido, this can't be helped. Shido, you've always rejected me, so I can only invite these guests here. I've told you many times." Kurumi tilted her head and smiled evilly. "You can't reject me." "Is that so?" Wu Yan glanced at Kurumi. Then he looked at Shina, Kotori, and the others who are not far away from him. "Let them go." Kurumi frowned. Wu Yan's indifferent tone made her very uncomfortable. The smile on her face disappeared and she glanced at Shina on the ground. "Well, since Shido is here, the prelude to the feast is over. They're useless now." After saying that, a few pale red arms suddenly appeared on the ground, grabbed Shina's body, tied him up, and pulled him towards Kotori, and laid him down on the ground with them. "Your next task is to witness me and Shido fusing as one." Kurumi couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps she thought of the moment when she fused with Wu Yan. Wu Yan's expression turned cold. He shot Kurumi an electric glare. "What? You want to use them to threaten me?" "Taira, no." Kurumi tapped her chin with the pistol in her hand and said with a smile, "This is a feast for me and Shido. How can we let other people interfere in it?" "Then why don't you let them go?" Wu Yan said coldly. "Of course, it's to prevent you from rejecting me again." Kurumi closed her eyes and opened her hands. "Only if there are a few witnesses, Shido won't reject me. Otherwise, if you want to leave, I can't do anything about it." Wu Yan looked at Kurumi coldly, then he looked at Toka and Yoshino. His eyes flickered and he moved his right hand. "Taira, Shido, you're really ruthless. We agreed that this feast can only have us." Kurumi giggled. When she said that, the arms that bound Toka and Yoshino tightened. Toka and Yoshino screamed in pain, which made Wu Yan stop. "I know about Shido's matter, Toka's matter." Kurumi's evil laughter rang out. "It's very easy for those arms to penetrate the bodies of elves who aren't wearing spiritual equipment. Once the seal on student Toka and that little elf is broken, the spiritual waves will spread out. Those arms won't show any mercy, they won't show any mercy." Wu Yan's face darkened. He gave up on the idea of releasing Toka and Yoshino. He looked at Kurumi. "You've gone too far." Wu Yan said the same thing again, but this time, Wu Yan wasn't as calm as before. His tone was calm, but everyone can hear the anger in it. "Ling Ying, teleport you back." Following Wu Yan's words, Yatsuki Chinyu disappeared from where he stood and teleported back to Fraxinus. He's the only one who isn't being held hostage and can safely teleport back to Fraxinus. "Kurumi." Wu Yan walked towards Kurumi. "Originally, I've always been thinking about what I should do in order for you to be saved and happy like Shixiang and Si Yunai." Kurumi's face darkened. She stared at Wu Yan with her red and gold eyes. She wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Wu Yan. "But now, I completely understand it." Wu Yan's deep voice reverberated in the air and it soared into the sky. "To you, words have completely lost their effect. Actions can't move your heart that is riddled with holes. Only pain can wake you up. So, Kurumi, this time I must wake you up. Hee hee." Hee hee. Ha, Kurumi chuckled. Her voice got louder and louder until she started laughing. Above her left eye, the eye of the clock started spinning. The battle was about to start. Chapter 476. Sherdao. 10 Fragrances looked at the two people who were standing opposite each other not far away. Her voice was full of worry. One person, no problem? No problem. No problem. The one who answered Toka was actually the most timid and shy Yoshino. At this moment, there was no fear on Yoshino's face. There was only determination and trust. Brother Shido, you will win. Hearing Yoshino's trust in Wu Yen, Kotori couldn't help but smile. Toka paused for a moment, then smiled. Ah, yes, if it's Sherdao, there will be no problem. Kotori looked up at Wu Yen and whispered, Onii-chan, you are my cute Onii-chan, you can't lose. His wine-red eyes stared straight at Kwang-san. After a slight squint, his eyes began to spin. The wine-red color in his eyes faded away and was replaced by a noble golden color. When Wu Yan's eyes turned golden, his frail body emitted an oppressive aura that enveloped Kurumi. This is the aura of a true ancestor. Even Kurumi couldn't help but feel the pressure weighing down on her. However, this trace of heaviness didn't make Kwang-san timid. Instead, a fanatical expression appeared on her face. Her red and gold eyes were filled with intoxication, telling everyone that Kwang-san's heart was fluctuating at this moment. It's as fascinating as always. This power is like blood being brewed from a wine jar. Kwang-san waved his hands like a madman. The two spears in his hands danced in the air and pointed at the huge clock behind him. It's so exciting! It's so exciting! Zafkiel, as soon as he finished speaking, the illusory wheel on the edge of the huge clock rotated. The golden clock in Kwang-san's left eye also rotated. The word 7 on the Zafkiel lit up. Black and red airflow flowed out and rolled into the short pistol's muzzle. As soon as the stream of air flowed into the pistol, Wu Yan's golden eyes flashed coldly. The sword in his hand trembled, and with a bang, a red lotus flame danced on the blade and wrapped around Wu Yan's body. Flame. Not far away, Shina, who was lying beside Shiori, gasped when she saw the flames on Wu Yan's body. I've never heard of a weapon that can use flames. Captain's ability to control flames, is he an Efreet? But an Efreet is a female. Kotori curled her lips and looked at Wu Yen, who was wrapped in flames. Her eyes were a bit blurred. She has to say, Wu Yen really does look like an Efreet at this moment, a version of herself who has released her power. Wu Yen stomped on the ground, and the red lotus flame around his feet burned a black mark on the ground. He leaped up and turned around in the air, and fiercely waved his sword at Kurumi. Kwang-san had just finished reloading her bullet of 7, but before she could fire it, a wave of heat hit her face, causing her to pause her movement. At this time, the red lotus fire had already filled her entire field of vision. Kwang-san's red and gold eyes flashed as he decisively gave up on the bullet of 7. Instead, he took a step forward. Suddenly, countless pale red arms reached out from under Kwang-san's feet and formed a wall of arms in front of Kwang-san. The red lotus flame smashed against the wall of hands. The hand wall trembled slightly before it was incinerated into nothingness. However, the red lotus flame was also blocked. When the hand wall and the red lotus flame disappeared at the same time, Kurong 3 raised his pistol and shot out the bullet of 7 with a sinister grin. However, not long after the bullet of 7 shot out, a blue-white lightning bolt flew from afar and collided with the bullet of 7 head-on. The lightning and the bullet of 7 collided, and the bullet of 7 instantly turned into a transparent black light shield, covering the lightning and causing it to stop in midair. Kurumi was startled. When she reacted, she quickly raised her head and looked forward. At this moment, the sound of air breaking rang out, and a black figure wrapped in red lotus flame appeared in front of Kurumi. The cold golden eyes met Kurumi's eyes, and Kurumi's face trembled. However, the Nin Temple Shana was already slashing towards Kurumi. The scorching flames landed on Kwang-san's clothes first, and a wisp of smoke appeared on the spiritual equipment. Kwang San actually used the rifle in her hand as a weapon when she saw the flaming blade about to reach her. She slammed it on the Nin Temple Shana and blocked it. Kurumi's scarlet right eye looked at Wu Yen, who was holding the Nin Temple Shana. The corner of her mouth rose, and she raised her pistol and pointed it at Wu Yan's forehead. Bang! The sound of the pistol rang out, and everyone's heart tightened. However, they immediately let out a sigh of relief. The black bullet didn't enter Wu Yan's forehead, but instead shot towards the sky. This was because a black iron sand sword blocked the bullet and pushed it away. Chaotic return to sky dance, Wu Yen shouted in a low voice. The Nin Temple Shana emitted a fiery red halo, and then Wu Yen fiercely swung it down. Boom! The red blade blasted away the rifle and smashed into Kurumi's body. She groaned, and a crazed expression appeared on her face. She forcefully pulled back the rifle and smashed it into Wu Yan's chest. Bang! Wu Yan's chest also felt heavy. He gritted his teeth and kicked at Kurumi. Kurumi seemed to have the same idea. She kicked out, and both of them were kicked away. Bullet of 1, Aleph. Kurumi clenched her teeth as she flew backward. She forcefully lifted her body and shouted. A huge clock appeared and a black-red stream of energy swirled around the number 1. It flowed into the muzzle of the gun and was shot by Kurumi. Bullet of 7, Yin. This time, it's the 7 characters' turn to release black and red energy. This time, it's 2 streams of energy that flowed into the guns in Kurumi's left and right hands. Kurumi disappeared from her spot and reappeared next to Wu Yen, who is still flying backwards. However, as soon as Kurumi appeared beside Wu Yen, a fierce red lotus flame ignited on Wu Yan's body. It suddenly expanded, and like a flaming whip, it hit Kurumi, causing her to spit out a mouthful of blood. Beep beep beep. At the center of the red lotus flame, a crazy sound reverberated. A blue and white light flashed from the red lotus flame, attracting Kurumi's attention. She raised her head, and an orange light beam was already in front of her. Bang! Just as the orange light beam was about to hit Kurumi, she fired the bullet of 7, Yin, from her handgun. The orange light beam stopped in midair. Then, Kurumi swept her gaze towards the center of the red lotus flame and fired the bullet of 7, Yin, from her rifle. The red lotus flame was covered by a transparent black shield. The flames that were originally burning slowly inside were all frozen like a painting. At the edge of the transparent black shield, Wu Yen brushed past the shield and flashed out of the flames, dodging the attack of the bullet of 7, Yin. Suddenly, a pale red arm shot out from the ground in front of Wu Yen. The long arm swung towards Wu Yen from the side and sent Wu Yen flying. At this time, only 10 seconds had passed since the start of the battle. In 10 seconds, the battle between the two sides was fierce. Chapter 477. In the open space, the bullet of 7 that stopped the super railgun and the red lotus flame gradually lost its effect. The transparent black shield slowly dispersed, releasing the super railgun and the red lotus flame. As the bullet of 7 lost its effect, the super railgun no longer stopped and shot into the distance. Of course, this round of super railgun was no longer effective. The red lotus flame seemed to have lost its support. Layers of fire rippled on the ground and then slowly weakened until it completely disappeared. Only one red and one black figure were left standing in the middle, awkwardly looking at each other. Kotori, Toka, and Yoshino couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then they looked at Kurumi, who was also in a sorry state but unharmed state, and frowned. She's really hard to deal with, that Tokasaki Kurumi. Kotori moved her body and felt that the restraints didn't loosen at all. She sighed. She thought that after such a fierce battle, Kurumi would be injured and the restraints would weaken a bit. In fact, although Kurumi was injured, the arms that bound Kotori and the others were equivalent to Kurumi's clones. As long as the golden clock in Kurumi's left eye didn't run out of time, these arms would exist forever. Bullet of 4, Dalit. Kwang San's voice resounded once more. From the huge clock behind her, black and red airflow rolled out, flowing into the pistol in Kwang San's hand. Then Kwang San aimed at her temple and fired a shot. The wound she had just received was completely healed. On the other side, although Wu Yan doesn't have the ability to control time like Kurumi's angel, his recovery ability as a true ancestor isn't any weaker than Kurumi. Before Kurumi's injuries were healed, Wu Yan's injuries were also healed. The two returned to their peak state. If it weren't for the cracks and charred marks on the ground caused by the battle and the golden clock in Kwang San's left eye hadn't rotated a lot, the fierce battle just now might have been regarded as an illusion. Kurumi sighed softly and looked at Wu Yan. Her gaze swept over Wu Yan's body. After confirming that Wu Yan has returned to his peak state like her, Kurumi secretly curled her lips. Shido, is this what you meant when you said you wanted to wake me up? Kurumi's evil laughter was ear-piercing. If this is all you've got, it's still not enough. Just shut your mouth and watch. Wu Yan said indifferently. In his golden eye, Kurumi's thin figure was imprinted in his eyes, causing ripples to appear. With the ability of Zafkiel, Kurumi could recover from her injuries and increase her speed. She also had the ability to freeze her opponent's time and create countless time clones. There was no way she could be defeated. Unless all the time stored in Kurumi's left eye was used up, she would still be immortal. There was no way this battle would end. There are only two ways to defeat Kurumi. The first is to have the absolute strength to suppress Kurumi. Even if he can't defeat her, he can still capture her alive. The second method is to use a powerful ultimate move to destroy Zafkiel, just like how Kotori fought Kurumi in the original work. There's no doubt that the first way won't work. With Wu Yan's current strength, it's already his limit to fight Kurumi to this extent. After all, Kurumi is stronger than Wu Yan in terms of pure strength. Therefore, to defeat Kurumi, there's only one way. Using a powerful ultimate move to destroy the Zafkiel. Thinking about this, Wu Yan started struggling. He has a lot of tricks up his sleeves, but the only one strong enough to take down Zafkiel is Lightning Fall. However, Lightning Fall is too slow to cast. Against a fairy who can control time, it's not going to work. Of course, it's not that Wu Yan has no other way. If his move doesn't work, he still has his armament. The meteor shower is much stronger than before. Destroying Zafkiel won't be a problem. Meteor shower is strong, but it's too strong. Wu Yan is afraid that when Zafkiel is destroyed, Kurumi will get caught up in the shockwaves and die without leaving a trace behind. Therefore, neither of the two ways will work. Wu Yan's heart was racing. The more he thought about it, the more helpless he felt. Kurumi's strength isn't the strongest among the fairies, but she's definitely the strongest when it comes to toughness and survivability. Therefore, Wu Yan didn't know what to do. Wu Yan's golden eyes narrowed slightly. He exhaled lightly and his expression became serious. The only thing he can do now is to use all of his abilities and the infinite martial arts to come up with a strange move. Wu Yan slowly separated his feet and looked at Kurumi from afar. He reached out a hand and snapped his fingers. The next moment, countless crimson spatial ripples reverberated. However, they didn't reverberate behind Wu Yan. Instead, they reverberated around Kurumi. The crimson spatial ripples directly surrounded Kurumi. Her pupils shrank. At the same time, iron sand swords shot out from the spatial ripples and pierced through the sky towards Kurumi. Aleph, the iron sand swords shot towards Kurumi from all directions. She quickly used the Aleph and escaped with an unparalleled speed. She dodged the iron sand swords, and the iron sand swords violently hit the place where she was standing, turning that area into powder. Not far away, Kwang San's figure appeared. Seeing the place where he stood a moment ago turn into ruins, Kwang San's expression couldn't help but change. But shortly after, a large number of scarlet spatial ripples flashed once again. This time, they didn't surround Kwang San. Instead, they fluctuated on the ground. Countless iron sand swords flew out from the ground and soared into the sky. The iron sand sword cut through Kwang San's body, leaving countless wounds on her soft white skin. This was the result of Kwang San dodging in time. If she didn't do anything, she would have been pierced by the iron sand sword. Kurumi endured the pain in her body and raised her pistols. She was about to use the Dalit to heal her injuries when a crimson light flashed in her line of sight. Kurumi's expression changed drastically. The crimson spatial ripples fluctuated behind Wu Yen. But what came out of the spatial ripples weren't iron sand swords, but the most basic iron sand. The iron sand surged in the spatial ripples and formed black cannon muzzles that stretched out from the spatial ripples. Standing in front of the countless iron sand cannon muzzles, Wu Yan's body suddenly flashed with a strong electric light. Then, Wu Yen shouted and used the electromancer's ability to channel all the electric current into the iron sand cannon muzzles that stretched out from the Gate of Babylon. As the electric current flowed into the iron sand cannon muzzles, the iron sand cannon muzzles flashed with a strange blue and white light that became stronger and stronger. Soon, all of the iron sand cannon muzzles lit up with blue and white light. Extreme impact. Wu Yen stretched out his hands and huge blue and white light beams shot out from the iron sand cannon muzzles. With an unimaginable speed, they shot towards the shocked Kurumi. Boom! The explosion resounded through the world. Chapter 478. Under the bombardment of the gigantic beam of light that blotted out the sky and earth, the entire open space was reduced to dust. The surrounding rocky ground was also reduced to rubble, carried away by the huge impact, flying into the distance. Between heaven and earth, blue and white had already become the only colors. The earth-shattering boom resounded through Tianfei, and even the white clouds in the sky were blown away. Kotori, Toka, Yoshino, and Shina, who were closest to the beam, were already shedding tears due to the dazzling blue-white light. The four girls quickly closed their eyes. The shockwaves from the beam also swept over, causing them to cry out in shock. If it weren't for those pale red glowing arms restraining them, with their weak weight, they would have been blown away long ago. However, the light was too dazzling, and they could close their eyes. Their weight was lighter, and their pale arms could be fixed. However, when the earth-shattering sound rang out, the four girls had no hands to cover their ears. Immediately, under the attack of the loud sound, the four girls' ears were bombarded with buzzing sounds, and even their heads were a little dizzy. After an unknown amount of time, the explosion slowly faded away. The blue and white light also dimmed. The shockwaves slowly weakened. After a while, everything returned to silence. Kotori was the first to recover. She groaned in pain and shook her dizzy head. Then she opened her eyes and looked ahead. The empty space had disappeared. The ground was filled with cracks, and the rock plate was exposed to the air. It looked like a barren land that had lost its water source. No one would have thought that this place would be empty before this. At the center of the light beam, there was only a deep pit that Kotori could not see in its entirety. "Did we win?" Kotori murmured. Then she thought of something and her expression changed. She quickly looked to the side. When a familiar figure appeared in her sight, Kotori sighed in relief. "So powerful!" Toka, Shiatomo, and Jin-na finally recovered from the impact. Seeing the cracks and pitch-black pits all over the ground, the three women were dumbfounded. They were stunned on the spot. On the other side of the crater, Wu Yen stood there. Sparks of electricity crackled around his body as he panted heavily. Behind him, the space rippled with crimson ripples. Just like Wu Yen, the black iron sand cannons were flashing with electricity. Inside the cannons, blue and white light flashed. Wu Yen was both happy and tired when he saw the effect of extreme impact. Of course, he's happy because of the power of the move he created on the spot. But it's normal for him to be tired. He used Electromancer, Gate of Babylon, and Infinite Arms Refinement. How could he not be tired? After taking a deep breath to calm his chest, Wu Yen straightened his body. He looked at the dusty pit and wondered how Kurumi is doing. However, this was a good opportunity for him to do so. Wu Yen turned to look at Kotori and the others. He jumped up and landed in front of Kotori, Toka, Yoshino, and Shina. "Shido!" She wanted to get up, but she couldn't move at all. She could only hang her head down dejectedly. It wasn't just 10 fragrances. Even Sima and Jun couldn't move. Wu Yen and Kotori's expression changed. No matter how independent these arms are, if the owner is defeated, they won't disappear, but they won't be completely weakened. This only proves that Kurumi is fine. Bang! Almost as soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Wu Yen heard the sound of something breaking through the air. Wu Yan's expression turned ugly. He didn't need to guess to know that Kurumi hasn't been defeated yet. Wu Yen turned around and saw a black bullet. Wu Yen wanted to dodge, but he stopped and took the hit. The bullet broke through Wu Yan's body and entered Wu Yan's shoulder. Blood flowed out of the wound. Wu Yen saw blood for the first time in this battle. Shido! Kotori was shocked. She saw the blood flowing out of Wu Yan's shoulder. Her eyes flashed with pain. She knew that Wu Yen could have dodged the bullet, but she was behind him. If he dodged, she would have been the one to take the bullet. That's why Wu Yen took the hit. I'm fine. Wu Yen answered without turning his head. He rubbed the wound on his shoulder and the wound on his shoulder disappeared. All that was left was the blood staining his clothes, a clear indication that he was injured here before. He raised his head and looked at the deep pit. Kwang-san was slowly walking out of it with a giant clock behind her. She was holding a spear with both hands. Her red and gold eyes were shining with a strange light. As expected of Shido, the man I like. Kurumi's face was calm. She walked in front of Wu Yen and coldly said, "If I didn't summon all my avatars to block the attack, I wouldn't even be able to lift my gun." Wu Yen turned around when he heard Kurumi. "That means that hit was enough to defeat you, right? Do you have the confidence to take another hit from me? This time, I don't have any avatars to block the attack for you." Shido, do you think using the same trick against me would work?" Kurumi laughed in a creepy manner. Wu Yen couldn't help but feel helpless against her. Indeed, the reason why he was able to force Kwang-san to that point was mainly due to his surprise attack. After all, Kwang-san didn't understand his ability, but he understood Kwang-san's ability very well. Therefore, he was able to force Kwang-san, who was stronger than him, into a disadvantageous position. But now that his attack was seen through, Kurumi probably knew his ability. It would be difficult for him to gain the upper hand in the next battle. Oh, by the way. Kurumi raised her pistols and she told Wu Yen. "I summoned all my clones to block the attack for me. However, there is still one more clones left." Wu Yan's pupils shook. His body tensed up. Bullet of 7, Xin. At this time, a series of gunshots rang above his head, accompanied by the sound of bullets flying through the air. These were all bullet of 7, Zayin. A large number of black bullets fell from the sky towards Wu Yen. Wu Yen waved his hand and a crimson spatial ripple reverberated above his head. Faintly, some black light could be seen surging inside. When Wu Yen wanted to use the iron sand to form a shield, the bullet of 7, Zayin, arrived first. Before the iron sand could form, the black bullets directly hit the crimson spatial ripple and disappeared. Seeing this, Kurumi and Wu Yen were stunned at the same time. Then Wu Yen became excited. He did not expect that the Gate of Babylon could be used like this. Suddenly, in the crimson spatial ripple shot by the bullet of 7, Zayin, a strange light began to flicker, attracting Wu Yan's attention. "What's going on?" Wu Yen looked at the crimson spatial ripple with a strange luster. For a moment, he did not know what to do. Up until now, he had never seen the Gate of Babylon react like this. Under Wu Yan's gaze, the strange luster fluctuated above the crimson spatial ripple. Along with the crimson spatial ripple, the luster directly passed through the crimson spatial ripple and swayed in the void. A dazzling light suddenly flashed. Chapter 479. The crimson spatial ripples of the Gate of Babylon flashed with a dazzling light. The Gate of Babylon in the void was like a glowing lake with ripples, illuminating the entire space as if it was daytime. Everyone involuntarily closed their eyes. Wu Yen, who was closest to the Gate of Babylon, raised his arm in front of himself. The sudden change made him forget how to react for a moment. When he realized that there might be danger and wanted to turn back to protect Kotori and the others, a roar sounded in his mind, making his mind go blank. The world suddenly became quiet. Hum! The crimson spatial ripples of the Gate of Babylon shook violently. A strange aura shrouded the entire space. White light shone in every corner, completely covering the space in a single color. The real situation could no longer be seen clearly. Wu Yen felt like he stepped into a spacequake when he first arrived in this world. His body was spinning back and forth in the void, like a green willow blown by a gust of wind. He couldn't control his body at all, swaying in the dizziness. After a long time, the dizziness slowly subsided, and his body was no longer swaying. Wu Yen regained control of himself and opened his eyes. However, as soon as he opened his eyes, the scene in front of him shocked Wu Yen. What's going on? At this time, Wu Yen was floating in the air, his body slightly tilted, looking down at the ground below. On the ground, there was a familiar small city, Heavenly Palace City. However, on the ground, the tranquil and serene scenery of Heavenly Palace City had long disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a sea of fiery red. All the buildings were burning and burning in this sea of fire. Heavenly Palace City is on fire? Wu Yen stared blankly at the sea of fire below. Everything in his field of vision was fiery red. People kept running out of the buildings and then fled to the side of the street. For a time, the sky above Heavenly Palace City was full of screams and cries. Could it be caused by the Gate of Babylon? Wu Yan's face was slightly pale. If the fire in Heavenly Palace City was caused by the Gate of Babylon, then his sin was really big. Where's Kurumi? Kotori? Where did everyone go? At this moment, Wu Yen is like a lost child. His face is filled with confusion and panic. This sudden turn of events really left Wu Yen at a loss of what to do. Suddenly, a familiar yet strange voice came into Wu Yan's ears. It woke up the absent-minded Wu Yen, who was in midair and didn't know what to do. Although the voice was very low, Wu Yen could hear it very clearly. The crying voice made Wu Yen quickly come back to his senses. This voice is? Wu Yen looked at the direction of the crying voice. He seemed to have heard this voice before, but there were some differences. Wu Yen frowned. Let's go and see. His golden pupils flashed. Wu Yen moved and quickly flew in the direction of the crying voice. As the crying voice became clearer and clearer, the fire below also became bigger and bigger. Looking at the buildings struggling in the sea of fire, Wu Yen, who saw the scene below from the sky, flashed a light in his mind. Tiangong City in the sea of fire, he felt that he had seen it somewhere before. His figure was like an arrow leaving the bow, cutting through the sky and rushing in the direction of the sound. The sound was getting closer and closer. At a certain moment, Wu Yan's figure suddenly stopped. Looking down, his golden pupils shrank to the size of a needle tip. A look of disbelief appeared on his face. On the ground, inside a building, the flames burned fiercely on all sides of the building, turning everything into ashes. Some fixed objects couldn't withstand the burning of the fire and collapsed to the ground. In the center of the flames, a small figure sat in it, covering her face and crying. The figure was wearing a feather-like kimono. It was mostly white with red and light pink silk was gently embellished on the feather-like kimono. It was like a phoenix spreading its wings. A white ribbon passed through both sides of the feather-like kimono. It seemed to have lost its weight and was suspended there, looking very light and ethereal. Her fiery red hair cascaded down her back. She had a pair of ivory and bullhorns ornaments hanging on her head. Tied to the ornaments were two white ribbons that Wu Yen is very familiar with. Kotori! Wu Yen looked at the figure below in a daze. In an instant he recognized the other party's identity. It's definitely Kotori. And it's Kotori who has turned into an elf. However, the Kotori who was crying in the sea of fire, not only has she turned into an elf, her figure has also shrunk a lot. This how? His brain seemed to have crashed. Wu Yen couldn't react at all. He really didn't expect that after a burst of light and a rotation of the sky and earth, everything would change so much. Tiangong City became a sea of fire, Kotori entered the elf state, and her figure shrunk a lot. It's like she's rejuvenated. She's rejuvenated. When this term flashed through his mind, the idea that flashed through his mind once more. Wu Yen, who was at a loss for what to do, his expression gradually turned serious. In the sea of fire in Tiangong City, the elf Kotori is crying in the center of the fire. Isn't this the scene in the original work, 5 years ago, when Kotori turned into an elf and her power went out of control? causing the fire in Tiangong City. Did I travel back in time to 5 years ago, when Kotori became an elf? Recalling the strange phenomenon that appeared in the Gate of Babylon, the strange experience he had before, and the fact that he had seen it before in the original work, Wu Yen became more and more certain of his guess. Is it because of the collision between my Gate of Babylon and Kurumi's Bullet of 7? That's the truth. As we all know, Kurumi's angel has the ability to control time, while the Gate of Babylon is a space-type item. Not long ago, Kurumi used Bullet of 7 in an attempt to freeze Wu Yan's time and defeat him. At that time, Wu Yan couldn't evade the attack because Kotori and the others were behind him. He had no choice but to use Gate of Babylon to defend himself with the iron sand. However, Kwang 3's attack was a surprise attack. The Gate of Babylon was activated in a hurry, and before the iron sand could form, it was attacked by the Bullet of 7. When the Bullet of 7 collided with the space-type Gate of Babylon, the space-type Gate of Babylon collided with the space-type Gate of Babylon. The friction between the space-type Gate of Babylon and the space-type Gate of Babylon caused the strange phenomenon that appeared. Originally, the collision between the Bullet of 7 and the Gate of Babylon would only cause a small phenomenon due to the nature of the space-type Gate of Babylon. However, Wu Yan's Gate of Babylon also had the space-type Gate of Babylon. When the space-type Gate of Babylon collided with the space-type Gate of Babylon, the strange ripples swept across the Gate of Babylon and touched the space-type Gate of Babylon. The space-type Gate of Babylon fluctuated, causing the strange phenomenon to materialize. Time and space power materialized and the space-time force rushed out of the Gate of Babylon and hit Wu Yan, sending him back to 5 years ago. Chapter 480. It had to be said that this was a coincidence that would never happen a second time. The phenomenon caused by the collision of time and space might have involved other factors. There might also be other reasons for the materialization of the power of spacetime. Even if it was a fixed reaction, it would not be able to teleport people to such a suitable time. Floating in the air, Wu Yan looked down at the crying Kotori, his heart aching a little. Kotori was just an ordinary little girl before this. It's already a miracle that she wasn't scared out of her wits. Kotori should be terrified right now. Sighing, Wu Yan looked down at Kotori with his golden eyes. He pondered for a moment, reached out a finger and pulled the system projection out of thin air. Wu Yan tapped on it again and again. Soon, a pair of white and red bracelets appeared in the air. Wu Yan held the bracelets in front of him. They're the sealing bracelets. So, this is how it all started. Wu Yan shook his head and he laughed. Now, he finally understood the reason behind everything. No wonder Kotori was wearing the sealing bracelets when they met for the first time. No wonder Kotori would recognize the bracelets and invite him to join Ratatosker. She even acknowledged him as her older brother. It's not the first time they've met. If it wasn't for this 1-in-a-billion coincidence, his experience in this world would have been completely different. He equipped the white sealing bracelet on his hand. Now, he has 2 sealing bracelets on each of his hands. He hovered in the air for a bit before he turned around and he flew down towards Kotori. He passed through the sea of flames and he blew the flames away with a wave of his hand. He landed in front of Kotori. Kotori's crying figure entered Wu Yan's eyes. Wu Yan crouched down and he reached out to touch Kotori's head. Okay, good girl, don't cry. A warm touch came from the top of Kotori's head. An unusually soft voice entered Kotori's ears. Kotori's head, which was buried in her hands, trembled. She quickly raised her head and saw a stranger who she had never seen before. However, this stranger was looking at her with a doting expression and stroking her little head with a smile. Kotori stared blankly at the stranger in front of her. His gentle face was illuminated by the firelight, making it impossible for Kotori to see his face clearly. She could only vaguely feel his warm gaze on her. After a while, Kotori reacted and said to Wu Yan with a sobbing voice, It's dangerous here, you have to leave." Wu Yan chuckled and he rubbed Kotori's head. "What will you do if I leave?" "Me." Xiao Kotori was stunned. Then, tears flowed out of her eyes again. Even she didn't know what to do. Everything happened too suddenly. It was too shocking. Xiao Kotori was at a loss about her future. Wu Yen sighed and wiped away her tears. He said softly, "You're still here, how can I leave?" Kotori's heart started pounding when she heard those words. She started tearing up again. She threw herself into Wu Yan's arms and started bawling her eyes out. Wu Yan rubbed her hair and patted her back. "It's okay, don't cry, it's okay, Wu." Not only did Kotori not stop crying, she cried even harder. At this time, she was less than 10 years old. Originally, she just wanted to be a little stronger. She just wanted to become the little sister that her elder sister liked. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen? The moment that voice appeared, Kotori changed everything. Not only did her body change, even her existence changed. All of this happened to a girl less than 10 years old. It's easy to imagine how scared she was. Under such circumstances, Wu Yan's gentleness touched her heart all the time. She just wanted to cry out loud in this man's arms and express her feelings. In the sea of fire, the two embraced each other as if they didn't see anything. The flames automatically avoided that area and burned to other places, leaving them with peace. After a long time, Kotori's crying weakened. Her body was still sobbing and her face was full of tear stains, making people feel sorry for her. When she stopped crying, Wu Yan let her leave his arms and took out the sealing bracelet. "Kotori, put it on." Kotori blinked her red and swollen eyes and took the sealing bracelet. She looked confused as if she didn't know what it was used for. Seeing this, Wu Yan told her about the effects and restrictions of the sealing bracelet. Then he said, "So, put it on and you'll be an ordinary person again." "Really?" Kotori cried out in surprise. She looked at the sealing bracelet in her hand and hugged it like it was a treasure. At this time, a powerful suction force fell from the sky and smashed onto Wu Yan. His body trembled violently and he almost lost his balance. When he reacted, Wu Yan quickly stabilized his body, but the suction force sucked him up and pulled him up. "What's going on?" Wu Yan said in shock as he resisted the suction force with great difficulty. This attracted Kotori's attention. She suddenly felt uneasy and grabbed Wu Yan's clothes tightly. "What's wrong?" Wu Yan gritted his teeth and resisted the suction force. He felt his body being pulled up bit by bit. Wu Yan seemed to understand something and said to Kotori, "Kotori, remember to put on the sealing bracelet." "I'm leaving." "What?" Kotori was shocked and quickly hugged Wu Yan. She cried, don't go, Kotori's scared. "I don't want to be alone." Kotori. Wu Yan stabilized himself and said, "Don't be afraid, you'll be fine. Where are you going? Can you take Kotori with you?" "Kotori doesn't want to stay here. It's so scary." Kotori cried and begged. Wu Yan's heart almost broke from crying. "Kotori, you have to be strong." Wu Yan panted and looked at Kotori. "I can't take you with me, but we'll meet again." Little Kotori stared blankly at the face that could not be seen clearly under the illumination of the fire. She tightened her grip on the sealing bracelet and muttered, "See you again, yes. See you again." Wu Yan rubbed Kotori's head and he grinned. "When the time comes, I'll take you wherever you want to go, Kotori." "Really?" Kotori grabbed Wu Yan's clothes and whispered. "Yes, of course." Wu Yan chuckled. "That's why, Kotori, you have to be strong. Don't cry. It'll be over soon. Be strong." Kotori held the sealing bracelet tightly and looked up. She said with determination, "Yes. Kotori will be strong." Wu Yan chuckled. Unable to resist the suction force any longer, he let go of Kotori and got pulled into the sky. "Wait, who are you?" Wu Yan opened his mouth when he heard Kotori's shout. Before he could say anything, his body turned into specks of light and he vanished into thin air. Chapter 481. In the open space, the white light that illuminated the entire area seemed to have completed a certain task. It slowly dimmed down and released the area that it had covered. It flowed away like a tide. It wasn't until the white light completely disappeared that the situation in the open space was exposed to the sunlight again. Inside, Kotori, Toka, Shirori, and Shirori were still lying on the ground, being grabbed by the pale red hand. Kurumi was holding her spear in front of her. Her eyes were tightly closed. Everything was exactly the same as before the white light covered the open space. Only Wu Yen is half kneeling on the ground, gasping for breath. His golden eyes are a bit absent-minded, his face is a bit pale, it seems like he experienced something. "I'm back." Taking a deep breath, Wu Yen calmed his heaving chest and looked around. The familiar scenery appeared again, the familiar figures appeared again. Everything is the same as before, as if nothing happened. Wu Yen touched his wrist, he felt a sealing bracelet on it. Wu Yen sighed in relief, he confirmed that what he experienced wasn't an illusion. Shido, why didn't you attack just now?" Kurumi put down her hand and smiled at Wu Yen. "Don't tell me Shido was blinded by his own technique? It's not like you at all." Wu Yen looked at Kurumi, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Kurumi thought that the white light was his own technique? Standing up from the ground, Wu Yen looked at Kurumi with his golden eyes. "Well, you can say that." Kurumi paused, she looked at Wu Yan's smiling face and frowned. This is the first time Wu Yen smiled since he appeared. "It seems like Shido is in a good mood. He was angry because I invited those people to the feast, right?" Kurumi's mouth curved into an evil smile. "Is Shirdao no longer angry at me?" "Well, you can say that." The same words and the same expression made the smile on Kurumi's face slowly disappear. She frowned, but then she relaxed again. Her intuition told her that something was wrong. Wu Yen glanced at Kurumi with a smile, then he looked back at Kotori who was lying on the ground and the sealing bracelet in her hand. His eyes were full of joy and tenderness. "See, we meet again, Kotori." No one heard Wu Yan's whisper, but Kotori who was closest to Wu Yen heard it clearly. Her body shook, she looked up at Wu Yen. Kotori looked at Wu Yan's smiling face, her mind drifted back to 5 years ago, the person who comforted her, accepted her, and saved her in the fire. The person who floated in the air, and the person who wore the sealing bracelet in her eye sockets. The blurry face that held her in his arms slowly overlapped with the familiar face in front of her eyes. Tears appeared in Kotori's eyes, but they quickly disappeared. She showed a sweet smile and said with a trembling voice, "Yes, we finally meet again." Since the first time she saw Wu Yen and recognized the sealing bracelet in his hand, Kotori has wanted to say this to Wu Yen countless times, but he doesn't seem to recognize her at all, he doesn't look like he's faking it, so Kotori dispelled the thought again and again. Her intuition told her that the person who brought her light in the fire of despair must have a reason for not recognizing her. That's how she comforted herself. Now, even though he didn't know what had happened, the words that he had hidden for 5 years had finally reached the ears of its rightful owner. And he had also received the words that he had been waiting for 5 years. Kotori felt it was all worth it. Wu Yen saw Kotori's reaction. He shook his head with a smile. He glanced at the black ribbon on Kotori's head and chuckled, "You've become very strong." Kotori nodded indifferently, she didn't seem to care about Wu Yan's praise. Of course, from her red eyes flashing with joy, she didn't really care. Everyone looked at Wu Yen and Kotori who are having a weird conversation with each other. Kurumi and the others were confused by what they are doing. Wu Yen didn't intend to explain, he turned to Kurumi. "Kwang-san, this farce should end now." Kurumi flinched, she looked at Wu Yen in surprise. She smiled. Shido, are you trying to run away? Don't forget, the guests haven't left yet." Kurumi didn't think Wu Yen was making a declaration of victory. Everyone knows it's not that easy to defeat her. She thought Wu Yen wanted to leave the battlefield. But the truth is the opposite. Wu Yen is making a declaration of victory. "It's time to end this." Raising one of his hands, Wu Yan's voice spread to every corner of the field. Everyone's eyes fell on him. "Kotori!" Wu Yen put his hand in front of his chest and he shouted at Kotori. Kotori flinched for a moment before she thought of something else. She grinned in delight. "Seal. Release." Wu Yen raised his hand and the white sealing bracelet on his wrist shone brightly. The red runes around the white sealing bracelet slowly faded away until they disappeared. At the same time, Kotori who was lying on the ground behind Wu Yen shuddered violently. The red sealing bracelet on her wrist glowed with a bright light. An indescribable power emerged from the deepest part of Kotori's body. As if freed, it circled around Kotori's body before flowing into the ceiling ring. As the power left Kotori's body, a familiar ripple emerged from Kotori's body. Psychic waves. Kurumi looked at Kotori in shock. She didn't expect the little girl she thought was just a normal human to be an elf. What's more important is that Wu Yen undid the seal on the opponent's fairy power. Shido. Kurumi looked at Wu Yen in shock. You allowed her to regain her elf power? Wu Yen ignored Kurumi and looked at Kotori behind him. Kotori lowered her head, her red ponytails fluttered. She released a scorching aura. Finally, I can get rid of these annoying hands. Kotori said softly. She raised her head, a red light flashed in her red eyes. Kwang-san suppressed the shock in his heart and snorted coldly. Shido, I didn't expect you to break the rules of the banquet. Since that's the case, I'll make her pay. As soon as Kurumi finished her sentence, the pale red arms wrapped around Kotori seemed to have realized that Kotori was gradually regaining her strength. Then, under everyone's gaze, all the arms stabbed down viciously into Kotori, who was about to regain her spirit power. Several clear tearing sounds were heard. The glowing red arms pierced into Kotori's body in the blink of an eye, causing a wave of blood. Kotori! Toka, Yoshino, and Shina screamed. Chapter 482. Many thanks to Dancing with the Maples, Yatsuki Chinyu, and Icefire X for their tips. Kotori's body was covered in glowing red arms. Drops of blood flowed down the edges of the arms. There were bloody holes all over Kotori's body. Without a doubt, Kotori was already riddled with holes. On the side, Toka, Yoshino, and Shina stared blankly at Kotori, who was covered in arms. Their faces were slightly pale, and their delicate bodies were trembling. Yoshino's eyes were filled with tears, and she closed them. Haha. Kwang-san licked her lips and laughed crazily. She laughed until her shoulders shook. Oh, what a soft girl, dying like this. How heartless, how heartless. Kurumi. Toka and Shina glared at Kwang-san and struggled violently, trying to break free from the bindings. However, Toka was just an ordinary person and Shina had a serious gunshot wound. It was impossible for them to break free from Kwang-san's bindings. Kurumi started laughing maniacally again. She laughed so hard that tears started welling up in her eyes. She didn't notice the mocking smile on Wu Yan's face as he stood in front of Kotori. Really, suddenly, a cold voice came from under Kotori's lowered head, startling Toka and the others. It also made Kurumi, who was laughing wildly, freeze on the spot. Although I was mentally prepared, it still hurts to be stabbed by these disgusting arms. Kotori looked up from the glowing red arms and smiled at Kurumi. In the next moment, some blue flames that looked like willow, the wisps suddenly ignited on Kotori's wounds. At the same time, the pale arms that were stabbed into Kotori's body burned into ashes. Meanwhile, the wounds on Kotori's body completely disappeared under the blue flames. What? Kurumi took 2 steps back and looked at the unscathed Kotori in shock. Her red and gold eyes were filled with disbelief. She didn't expect that the other party was also in existence with an immortal body. Kotori! Toka and the others breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the recovered Kotori with joy. Just a moment ago, they thought Kotori would die just like that. Kotori smiled. Her red eyes looked at the arms on Toka and the others. A cold light flashed in her eyes. She raised her hand and waved it at the arms. Flames spread towards the pale arms of 10 Fragrance and the others, igniting all of them. At this time, Kwang-san regained her senses. She wanted to stop it, but it was too late. She could only watch as the bindings on 10 Fragrance and the others turned into ashes. That's great. 10 Fragrances and the others looked at the disappearing pale arm with joy and stood up from the ground. Wani-sama. Supporting his seriously injured body, Shina came to the side of the fainted Shiori and held her in his arms. Feeling that Shiori didn't suffer any injuries, he was relieved. Kurumi. Toka clenched her fists and stared at Kurumi with her amethyst eyes. How dare you keep pressing me down on the ground? How despicable! You all. Kurumi gritted her teeth and looked at the girls who were all out of danger. She became angry. Not only was she angry that the captives were freed, but she was also angry at her own carelessness. If she wasn't distracted, how could they be free from the shackles? Kurumi knew that this feast is coming to an end. No matter if Wu Yen and the others leave or continue fighting, she won't be the final winner. The situation is reversed, Kurumi. Wu Yen glanced at Kurumi and raised his hands. The other two sealing bracelets on his wrist lit up. Seal. Release. As the command to lift the seal sounded, both Toka and Yoshino felt that the source of their spiritual power had returned to the sealing bracelet on their wrists. The familiar power of the elves had also begun to return. She clenched her fists and closed her eyes to feel the power in her body. She suddenly raised her hand and opened her eyes again. She let out a soft cry. Kamui spirit equipment? Toka, Adanamarek. In the sky, a huge whirlpool suddenly appeared. All the clouds were sucked into the whirlpool and turned black and gray. At the center of the whirlpool, a purple-black flash of lightning descended and landed on 10 Incense's body. Under the lightning, Toka's clothes were all taken off. The lightning turned into light and attached to Toka's body. When the light dissipated, a purple ceremonial armor appeared on Toka's body. Sandalphon, 10 Incense stomped on the ground, and a purple light quickly spread into the ground. A ferocious crack appeared in the rock layer behind 10 Incense. As the purple light surged, the crack slowly shattered, and a golden throne flew out and stood behind 10 Incense. There was also a giant sword on the throne. She pulled out the giant sword. When the giant sword was pulled out, the golden throne disappeared. Toka stepped on the ground and swayed 2 steps. The giant sword in her hand pointed at Kurumi. Kamui spirit equipment? Toka, Elohim Sanbin. A soft call came out of Bono's mouth. Bono closed its eyes and leaned back a little. A burst of cold air was emitted from Bono's body. It wantonly reverberated around Bono's body. A thin layer of ice formed on the ground. Under the cold air, Toka's clothes began to fall off, revealing her petite and cute body. The cold air turned into mist and flew to Toka's head. Droplets of water fell on Toka's body and turned into a layer of film. Finally, a green hooded cloak with rabbit ears and a furry ball appeared on Toka's body. Frozen puppet, Sadkiel. The 4th bunny stretched out a hand, raised it high above its head, and then smashed it on the ground. Following the 4th bunny's action, an intense cold light flashed from the ground. The cold light emerged from the ground, and a huge rabbit-shaped puppet appeared in front of the 4th bunny. For nimbly jumped onto the back of the rabbit-shaped puppet and inserted both hands into it. The eyes of the rabbit-shaped puppet suddenly lit up. It looked at Kurumi and breathed out cold air. Kamui spirit equipment? Toka, Elohim Jabor. Boom! A raging fire burned Kotori and wrapped around her body. Her clothes were instantly burned by the fire. She spread her arms like a phoenix spreading its wings, and the fire turned into a feathery kimono. A silk ribbon floated on top of the kimono with sparks burning on the edges. A pair of horns were embedded on both sides of Kotori's head and a pair of black ribbons wrapped around them. It looked very powerful. Scorching devil, camel. Kotori raised her arm, and the flames on her body spread from her body to her hand. Then, they burned and expanded. After a while, when the flames dissipated, a huge black and red battle axe appeared in her hand. She swung it with both hands, and the 2 edges of the battle axe were burning with fierce flames. Toka, Yoshino, and Kotori all turned into fairies. They also showed their spirit equipment and angel at the same time. Their combat power is fully displayed. This also means that the strongest combat power has gathered. To be continued. Chapter 483. Purple light, blue light, and red light shone from Toka, Yoshino, and Kotori, illuminating the entire battlefield. At this moment, even the air seemed to be dyed with colors. Under the effect of Kotori and the other's spiritual force, the air swept in all directions. The air roared and blew away all the dust on the ground. For a moment, the earth trembled slightly. Princess, Hermit, Fire Devil. Zhen Na was completely dumbfounded. He stared at the three girls with their spirit outfits. Even though he already knew that they were elves, he still couldn't react after seeing them in spirit form. After all, the three elves were summoning their spiritual equipment and angels at the same time. Furthermore, they were standing on the same side. Who would be able to witness such a scene? Plus, their opponent is another elf. A battle between four elves and a powerhouse who isn't any weaker than an elf. Such a scene could be said to be unprecedented. In front of everyone, Kurumi's face turned ugly as she looked at the three elven girls. She couldn't help but take a step back. In her heart, she was already thinking of retreating. No matter how crazy Kurumi is, she didn't think she could take on three elves at full power. Plus, Wu Yan just destroyed all of her avatars. Kurumi is starting to get scared of the fight. Even the main body had such a reaction, let alone the last remaining berserker. She was in midair, looking down at the four people facing off against the main body. Her face was full of shock, and she subconsciously wanted to get as far away from the center of the battlefield as possible. Of course, she has to get permission from the others. Trying to run? A voice rang out behind Kurumi in the sky. The timid Kurumi trembled and quickly turned around. Soon, she saw Kotori with a scornful smile on her face. Her entire body was wrapped in flames. She was holding a huge battle axe in her hand. That gift. Kotori's expression darkened when she recalled how Wu Yan took Kurumi's attack to protect her. She raised her battle axe and she brought it down on Kurumi's horrified face. Now I'll return it to you. Boom. Kotori's voice faded and the huge flaming axe smashed into Kurumi's body. Surging flames scattered on Kurumi's body. Kurumi didn't even have time to scream before she turned into ashes. At this point, Kurumi's final attack was obliterated by Kotori's attack. Looking at the scene of Lei Feng being killed in the sky, Kuang San's face was extremely gloomy. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and her wine-red eyes flashed with a bloody light. This was a sign of extreme anger. So powerful. At the same time, Jana, who had caught sight of this scene, murmured in a daze. She did not expect that in the blink of an eye, the commanding officer, who she had thought to be harmless, would kill her in such a straightforward manner. Shina used to be the strongest in AST. She knew she wouldn't have a good ending if she were to face her. Not only Shina, Toka and Yoshino, who have never seen Kotori's strength before, are also shocked. Only Wu Yan's eyes flashed. Kotori Itsuka, level 78. Kotori's level is no lower than Ikaros and Toka. Kotori's body is covered in flames. She's expressionless as if she just did something insignificant. She turned into a streak of fire and landed beside Wu Yan's group like a meteor. Kotori raised her head and looked at Kurumi. She raised her axe and smiled. Begin the battle between us. Hearing this, everyone laughed and raised their weapons at Kuang San. In the next moment, under Kuang San's slightly pale and fearful expression, everyone began to move. 10 Incense raised her giant sword and took the lead. She leaped into the air and spun around. Then, she held her sword with both hands and slashed down at Kuang San, who was not far away. A sharp sword light exploded like an arrow. It shot out from the huge sword in 10 Fragrance's hand with a burst of ear-piercing whistling sound as it fell on the ground. The ground cracked inch by inch. The terrifying sword wave cut through the rock stratum and attacked Kuang San. Before the sword wave reached her, the remaining power blew on Kuang San's body. Her face changed as she realized the power of the sword wave. She didn't think much and screamed loudly. Zafkil. Aleph. A huge clock with an illusionary wheel appeared behind Kuang San's back. Almost instantly, the golden clock in Kuang San's left eye started to spin crazily. A black-red chi flow rolled out, turning into a black light bullet in the handgun, shooting into Kuang San's body and accelerating his own time. Within a blink of an eye, he disappeared from where he was, dodging the incoming sword wave and reappearing not far away. However, the moment Kwang San appeared, his expression changed once more. A blue-white stream of air shot over like a ray of light. The stream of air was even larger than Kwang San's height. It brought a chill that made Kwang San's hair stand on end. In an instant, it arrived in front of Kwang San. Kwang San clenched his teeth and used all of his strength to dodge to the side. The blue and white airflow flashed past Kwang San and hit the ground behind him. The ground immediately turned into ice, releasing cold air. Kwang San didn't doubt that if this cold air hit him, he would be sealed in ice. This horrifying cold current was naturally the handiwork of the fourth Bono. Kurumi turned her head to look at Yoshino. At this time, Yoshino was controlling the rabbit puppet. He opened his mouth and spat out a cold airflow towards Kurumi. Damn! Kurumi angrily raised her head. She pointed her handguns at the huge clock behind her and the long rifle at the number 7. She absorbed the black and red airflow and shot it out. The black bullet collided with the airflow. It didn't cause any sound. The airflow was covered by a black transparent shield and stopped in midair. It couldn't move forward anymore. Seeing this scene, Yoshino slightly showed a trace of panic, which made Kurumi sneer again and again. Even if he is an elf, he is still a child in the end. Please leave here first. The long rifle pointed at the number 7. Black and red airflow flowed into the muzzle. Kurumi directly aimed at Yoshino and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Don't even think about it. When the black bullet was about to hit Yoshino, Toka's body flashed in front of Yoshino. She raised her greatsword high above her head and slashed down. The black bullet was shattered. What a hindrance! Kwang San angrily glared at Ten Incense. Just as she was about to raise her spears again, a scorching aura flashed through every corner of the battlefield. The anger on Kwang San's face froze. She jerked her head up to look. Then, a horrified expression crawled onto her face. Wu Yen and Kotori stood side by side in the sky. Their bodies were covered in flames as they stomped on the flames. Kotori raised her axe and the blade of the axe retracted into itself, turning it into a heavy cannon. At the same time, crimson spatial ripples appeared behind Wu Yen. A large amount of iron sand swarmed out and wrapped around the blazing red lotus. Soon, an iron sand cannon was formed. In the next second, the two who were wrapped in flames raised their heavy cannons at the same time and pointed them at Kurumi. Chapter 484. Everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. They were holding heavy cannons, pointing at Kwang San and Kwang San. They were like fire spirits standing on a platform made of flames. The hot flames swept back and forth on their bodies, turning into flaming ribbons that floated around them. At this moment, perhaps no one would doubt that they were brother and sister. Because they were both manipulators of flames, and they were both existences that were favored by flames. As they stood side by side, the two of them who were surrounded by flames had simply transformed into the most compatible twins in the world. At a certain moment, the flames on Kotori's body began to spread to the heavy cannon in her hand. The flames turned into liquid and flowed into the heavy cannon like a water pipe. As the flames flowed into the heavy cannon in Kotori's hand flashed with a fiery red light. At the same time, Wu Yan's iron sand cannon trembled and flashed with flames. Unlike Kotori, the iron sand cannon's interior is burning. The flames rolled around inside the cannon and turned into a beam of light. Time seemed to have stopped for a moment. Burning Demon Destroyer Cannon, Camel, Megiddo. Extreme Impact, Small Flame. Two cold voices reverberated in the silent space. As the voices rang out, the surrounding atmosphere started to flow rapidly. A fiery red-hot aura spread and enveloped the entire place. A pair of red and gold eyes stared at the two fiery red cannons aimed at her. Kurong 3's pretty face was so pale that there wasn't a trace of blood in it. The alarm in her heart was ringing wildly, and the feeling of danger kept bursting out in her heart, reminding her that she had to leave this place. However, under the aim of the heavy cannons, Kwang San's body was immobilized by a majestic pressure. He was unable to move at all. All he could do was watch the two people in the sky swing the heavy cannons in their hands at him, burn to ashes. The muzzles of the two heavy cannons flashed with a dazzling red light vortex, bringing with it a dense flame wave. Under Kwang 3's desperate look, two terrifying flame beams were shot out from the two heavy cannons, striking towards Kwang 3 at an extremely high speed. Boom! Two beams of fire mercilessly shot toward Kwang San, covering all sound and enveloping Kwang San within the light of the fire. Following a loud explosion that sounded like thunder, the sound of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking also exploded under the sky. A fierce wind that carried a blazing temperature swept out in all directions like a storm from the very center. Everywhere it passed, smoke and dust would rise, and the ground would crack open. The wind blew towards Wu Yen and Kotori, but it was burned into nothingness by the flames around them. The two looked at the ground and gently put down their cannons. Wu Yen stood beside Kotori. The moment he put down his iron sand cannon, a crack appeared on it. After a while, the iron sand cannon collapsed with a bang, revealing the Nyamano Shana inside. Wu Yen sighed as expected. The iron sand and gate of Babylon is AD tier equipment after being turned into a knight of no bare-handed. Even so, the iron sand couldn't withstand the full power of Nyatono no Shana. Furthermore, Wu Yen condensed the red lotus flame into a fire beam. The iron sand couldn't withstand the full power of Nyatono no Shana and it crumbled. Luckily, it was an iron sand that had turned into a noble relic. If it was an ordinary iron sand, it would have turned into molten iron in an instant, let alone condensing it into a fire beam. Even if it was wrapped around the heavy cannon, it would have turned into molten iron in an instant. Of course, Wu Yen is satisfied with the power of impact, miniature flame. It's not as powerful as the full version of Impact, Lightning Fall, or Kotori's Camel Megiddo. However, it's still a lot stronger than the railgun. Shido! Toka and Yoshino flew to Wu Yen and Kotori's side. They looked at the dust-covered area and asked, "Did you win?" "I think so." Wu Yen looked down and said, "Kotori and I purposely avoided Kurumi and only attacked her Zafkiel. I don't think she suffered any fatal damage. However, without the Zafkiel, Kurumi can't fight anymore. So it's like this." Toka and Yoshino let out a sigh of relief and smiled. It wasn't that they were happy about their victory, but for them, it was a good thing that this battle could end as soon as possible. After all, the two women didn't like to fight. While Wu Yen, Toka, Yoshino, and the others looked down, Kotori lowered her head in silence. Her red eyes that are hidden under her bangs flashed a fiery red light. Kotori clutched her forehead in pain. "What's wrong, Kotori?" Kotori's strange behavior caught Wu Yan's attention. Wu Yen quickly helped her up when he sensed something wrong with her. "I'm fine," Kotori said softly. Her trembling voice proves that she's not fine. Wu Yen frowned. He saw the fire on Kotori's body expanding uncontrollably. His face sank. "Kotori, is your spiritual force going out of control?" "Spiritual force going out of control?" Toka and Shiyu turned pale with fright. As elves, no one knew better than them what the consequences of losing control of spiritual power would be. Yoshino, in particular, knows the consequences of spiritual force going out of control. She's the kind of person who will lose control of her spiritual force if she's afraid. "So you found out, huh?" Kotori flashed him an ugly grin. Her red eyes glowed red. Wu Yen furrowed his brows when he saw this. "Let's go down first." Wu Yen flew down after helping Kotori up. Toka and Yoshino quickly followed. The four landed in front of Shina. "Looks like it's a success." Shina smiled. The wounds on her body made her unable to move too much. She could only hold Shirori and sit on the ground, unable to get up. At this time, Shina also noticed Kotori's abnormality. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, I just overused my power. It's just a small problem," Wu Yen said with a smile. Indeed, for Wu Yen who can seal Kotori's power at any time, this is just a small problem. Wu Yen let go of Kotori and Toka supported her. He turned towards Kurumi's direction. The dust settled down and Wu Yen could see the scene inside the building. Under the attack of the two fire beams, The ground was filled with cracks. Broken rocks were everywhere. The battered and exhausted rock plate was exposed to the air. In the center, there was a black hole. Kwang San was covered with wounds. She was lying in the hole. Her red and black Gothic dress had been charred black. Wu Yen sighed and walked towards Kurumi. He looked down at her in silence. Kwang San's body moved slightly, but a sharp pain immediately climbed into her head, causing her to stop her meaningless movements. A sense of powerlessness from the bottom of her heart spread throughout her body. It was as if all her strength had been sucked out, causing her to lie motionlessly in the empty space. A pair of red and a pair of golden eyes were filled with confusion. She was looking at the sky with a deathly stillness. A sad aura was emitted from her body. At this moment, Kwang San looked pitiful. Chapter 485. Lying in the scorched hole, Kwang San opened her eyes with different colors. She looked at the sky, the clouds, and the birds flying by. At this moment, Kwang San was only at a loss. I lost. A pair of pupils slowly fluctuated. Although there was a smile on her face, there wasn't the slightest trace of a smile. Instead, it revealed a deathly stillness, proving Kwang San's current state of mind. Looking at the distant sky, Kwang San wanted to reach out her hand to grab something. However, she had already lost all her strength. She could only stifle this thought in her heart. Kwang San couldn't help but laugh. Although her laughter was light, it wasn't hard to hear the sadness in it. It's over. Kwang San murmured softly. Although her heart was filled with unwillingness and sadness, she also felt relieved as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. Kwang San didn't know what she was thinking at this time. After an unknown amount of time, a figure slowly appeared in Kwang San's line of sight. When her multicolored eyes reflected the other party's face, a strange ripple appeared in her eyes. Kwang San forced an ugly smile. She said with difficulty, "Come to admire the attitude of a loser? What a bad taste, what a bad taste." Hearing this, Wu Yen sighed. "Is that all you have to say about me?" Kwang San laughed. Her laughter was incomparably sarcastic. "Do you think that if you bring me pain, I will wake up? If that's the case, then I'll have to disappoint you." Kwang San looked at the sky again. "I've never regretted anything I've done." "I thought so too. After all, although you look crazy, you're surprisingly persistent." Wu Yen shook his head with a wry smile and looked down at Kwang San. "Do you want to listen to a story?" "The story?" Kwang San stared at Wu Yan's wine-red eyes. Kwang San stared straight at Wu Yan's wine-red eyes and said nothing. Ian smiled and raised his head. He looked at the sky and softly told Kwang San the story in a slightly absent-minded tone. "A long time ago, I don't know how many years ago, there was a girl. Her name was Artoria. Artoria was born in a time of war. Although she was a girl, she had a righteous heart. She longed to be a knight who could help the weak and help the people and the country. At that time, a very famous archmage, Merlin, once prophesied that one day, Artoria would pull out a sword specially used to select a king, the sword in the stone, and become the new king of Britain. By chance, Artoria was given the opportunity to come into contact with the sword in the stone. She was also given the opportunity to pull out the sword in the stone. When Artoria chose to pull out the sword in the stone, the great magician Merlin said something to her. "If you pull out the sword in the stone, you will no longer be a human." When Artoria heard it, she did not hesitate to pull out the sword in the stone. She even abandoned her identity as a woman and disguised herself as a man. She became a king and led the people of her country. On that day, Artoria lost two identities. One was a woman, and the other was a human. Thus, she gained another identity, which was a king. From that moment on, Artoria no longer cared about her feelings. She only cared about her country and her people. After she became the new king, she rushed into the battlefield like a man. In 10 years, she won 12 wars in a row and brought the kingdom of Britain to its peak. Even if she shed her blood on the battlefield, she did it for her country. Artoria protected her people and took responsibility for everything. However, after she picked up the sword in the stone, the magic of the sword in the stone stopped Artoria's body from growing. She maintained the appearance of a young girl. This caused the people to worry and distrust her. They even said that King Arthur didn't understand people's hearts. Finally, one day, many factors led to one cause. A battle began. In this battle, the people who stood in front of Artoria were her former subjects. In the end, the king died, and so did the subjects. Kurumi couldn't help but frown. She glanced at Wu Yen coldly. So, this is your story? The story of the protagonist's death? Wu Yen glanced at Kurumi and ignored her. He continued, before Artoria died, she made a contract with the world and became a heroic spirit. She was going to participate in a war where she could get the Holy Grail as long as she won. After Artoria got the Holy Grail, she wanted to go back to the moment when she pulled out the sword in the stone. She wanted to stop herself from becoming a king so that she could choose a new king to protect her country. Kurumi's body trembled violently. Her eyes, which were filled with confusion and death, suddenly turned to Wu Yen. There was an unconcealable fluctuation in her eyes. Seeing the indescribable fluctuation in Kurumi's eyes, Wu Yen smiled bitterly and said, in order to fulfill her duty as a king, she gave up a lot of things. She fought for her country. Since she had such a will, even if she was destroyed in the end, why should she start over again? The king protected the country, but the country didn't protect the king. That's all. The end result was tragic, but there was no regret in the process. So, why should she strive for perfection? There is no such thing as perfection in the world. In order to get one thing, she gave up a lot of things. Is it really necessary? Wu Yan's gaze pierced through Kurumi's face like lightning. It pierced through her heart. Kurumi, Artoria gave up so much to get a perfect result. What did she get in the end? Stop. Kurumi closed her eyes and murmured in a trembling voice. Even if the Holy Grail War was won and Artoria went back to the past and changed the future, would the result be the same? Stop. It was the same words, the same expression, but there was a trace of pleading in her voice. She gave up so many things. What about you? What did you give up to get a perfect result? Stop. Her voice trembled even more, but the pleading was gone. It was replaced by a faint madness. Or are you saying that you have nothing left to give up, and that's why you chose this path? Stop it. Stop it. I told you to stop. Kurumi opened her bloodshot eyes and screamed at Wu Yen. But after she screamed, tears flowed out of her eyes. Tears streaked across her pale cheeks and dripped to the ground. She used all her remaining strength to shout at Wu Yen, yes. I was wrong. I was crazy. But I didn't do it. What else can I do? What am I living for in this world? My existence. What's the use of it? If what you lack is the meaning of your existence, I will give it to you now. Kurumi was stunned. Wu Yen bent down and wiped the tears off Kurumi's face. It was the same thing he did for the dead Kurumi in the zoo. Your existence is just for me. From now on you are mine. Without my permission, you can't die. Kurumi stared at Wu Yan's smiling face. Her pupils fluctuated violently and then slowly became silent. Gradually, she became absent-minded. Chapter 486. The same place, different situation, but the same result, the same action, different words, and the same heart. Last time, when Kurumi and Wu Yen had a date, they chose this zoo as the location. At that time, Wu Yen used a lie to convince Kurumi of some facts. Kurumi knew that from that moment onwards, the conviction she held onto for so long started to crack. However, Kurumi didn't want to admit it. Yes, she didn't want to. Even if this was the truth, she couldn't admit it. Because admitting it was the same as admitting that everything she did in the past was meaningless. Ever since coming to this world, Kurumi was the same as Toka and Yoshino. She was ambushed by humans and slowly survived. However, she wasn't as lucky as the other two. No one lent her a helping hand. In the end, Kurumi had to kill a human. Since then, killing had become Kwang-san's instinct. Kwang-san used killing to numb her nerves. She used killing to gain pleasure and the meaning of survival. In the end, in the endless slaughter, Kwang-san's heart became more and more damaged. In the end, he was riddled with holes and couldn't turn back. At this time, Kwang-san began to think. What was the meaning of his existence? In the end, Kurumi came to a conclusion. Her existence was meaningless because she didn't have a future. Since there was no future, she could only deny the past. Thus, Kurumi began to pursue the path of the past. However, the most ironic thing was that this path of pursuing the past was still achieved by killing people. Kurumi wanted to laugh. She did laugh, but it was enough to make people sad. Now, the path of pursuing the past was completely denied by Wu Yan. Kurumi couldn't help but go crazy. Since she had no future and no past, what was the meaning of her existence? Your existence is only for me. From now on you are mine. Without my permission, you can't die. My existence is only for you. Kurumi absent-mindedly watched Wu Yan, who was gently wiping the tears off her cheeks. Her thoughts drifted back to that day when her doppelganger was killed by Chongong Shina. She hid in a corner and observed what happened after that. The man in front of her was also like this, wiping away the blood on her face when she was about to die. At that time, he said, abandoning the past is always an escape. Only by facing the past and accepting it can you face the future. If you don't even have the courage to accept your past, then how can you walk towards the future? How could he change the past? Kwang-san would never forget that time when the man in front of her looked at her past and whispered, I really want to save you this time. Is it possible for me to be saved? Kurumi subconsciously said this sentence, which made Wu Yan, who was wiping her tears, pause. Sighing, Wu Yan showed a sly smile, stroked Kurumi's cheek and said with a smile, you can't refuse me. Kurumi's eyes flickered intensely. After a while, she smiled. Allah, you're actually imitating other people's words. How cunning. Wu Yan shrugged and shrugged. Who told you to be so overbearing in the past? I can't help it. If I don't act overbearing this once, I will lose my standing in front of you in the future. But if I remember correctly, Sherdao, you've refused me many times, so? Wu Yan looked at Kurumi with a smile. Don't try to refuse me. You're really overbearing. Kurumi smiled bitterly, but then she couldn't help but lick her lips, the corner of her mouth raised into an evil smile. But I don't hate it. Seeing Kurumi's signature smile, Wu Yan's body shook. He laughed dryly. He felt like he made a wrong decision. At this time, in the distant sky, a large number of stars began to flicker. With a faint sound of breaking wind, it rang in the ears of everyone present, attracting everyone's attention. That is, seeing this familiar scene, the people present looked at each other in dismay. Then, they revealed a bitter smile at the same time. They're really like the police of the 21st century. They're either disrupting or cleaning things up. Wu Yan shook his head and laughed. He picked up Kurumi from the ground and walked to Kotori's side. The people from AST are here. Let's go back to Fraxinus first. Should we bring her along? Shina stood up with Toka's help. She looked at Kurumi in Wu Yan's arms and frowned. Well, Kurumi has lost her ability to fight back. It'll be easier to deal with her if we bring her back to Fraxinus. Wu Yan didn't seem worried at all. This made Shina feel helpless. Wu Yan looked at Kotori, who seemed to be in pain. He asked with concern, Kotori, are you all right? Kotori nodded with difficulty. She didn't say anything, of course. It's possible that she can't speak. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell she can't hold on much longer. Wu Yan quickly said, Kotori, hold on a little longer. I'll seal your soul force when we get back to Fraxinus. Wu Yan didn't wait for Kotori's reply. He spoke into the radio. Rain, teleport everyone back. With that said, an illusory light enveloped everyone. When the light faded away, Wu Yan and Ko disappeared from the spot as well. Everyone's vision blurred, and when they could see clearly again, they saw the teleportation device in Fraxinus. Kanazuki Kuhei and Murasame Rain also ran in from an automatic door and stood in front of everyone. Everyone, are you all right? Murasame Rain looked at everyone. She then looked at Kurumi in Wu Yan's arms with dark circles under her eyes. Rain, take Kurumi, Shina, and Shiori to get treated. Wu Yen handed Kurumi over to Murasame Rain. Wu Yen didn't know if it's just his imagination, but Murasame Rain seems to be more serious than usual. I understand. Murasame Rain took Kurumi from Wu Yan's arms. Kanazuki Kuhei also helped Shina. He picked up Shiori and followed Murasame Rain out of the room. Wu Yen let out a sigh of relief after Murasame Rain and the others disappeared from behind the automatic door. He looked at Kotori and the others and raised his hand. Seal. 3 sealing bracelets lit up in his hand. Red runes appeared on the edges of each bracelet. Kotori, Toka, and Yoshino's spirit energy gradually quieted down and was sealed away. But in the next moment, Wu Yan's eyes widened a few times. He looked at Kotori and the others in shock. In front of Wu Yen, the 3 girls' soul force is being sealed again. Their soul force is slowly fading away, revealing their delicate naked bodies. Looking at the 3 different girls in front of him, Wu Yan's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The 3 girls didn't seem to be able to react as well, they just stared blankly at each other. The whole scene fell into an eerie silence. As time passed, Kotori was the first to react. She lowered her head, raised her arms, crossed her chest, and kicked Wu Yen in the stomach. Haven't you seen enough? With a bang, Wu Yen turned into a parabola and smashed into the ground. There's only one sentence left in his mind. Die without regrets, bird. Chapter 487. In her hazy state, she slowly regained her consciousness. Reason crept into her mind and thoughts came to her heart. Kwang San quietly opened her eyes. Her eyelids trembled for a while before opening. Looking at the strange ceiling, Kwang San's head couldn't turn around. In a daze, her memories began to come back. Kwang San realized that she had been captured. Perhaps this was the so-called tit-for-tat. After all, she had just captured someone. Are you awake? While Kwang San was in a daze, a familiar voice came from her bedside. Kwang San was startled. She calmed down and turned to look at the source of the voice. Naturally, it was Wu Yen who brought her back. At this time, Wu Yen was sitting on Kwang San's bedside with his legs crossed. He was holding an apple in his hand and peeling it with a serious face. The red skin of the apple was pulled into a long strip. Kwang San could see that someone was trying to peel the apple into an endless strip. Kwang San couldn't help but laugh. She looked at the serious face of the man who was brimming with childishness. She couldn't believe that before this man had almost crushed her with his aura because she had kidnapped someone close to him. How is it? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Wu Yen didn't turn his head and asked. He focused on the apple in his hand. Just a little bit more and he would be able to peel the entire apple, but this made Kwang San feel dissatisfied. She pouted and said, "But it turns out that for a scholar, an apple is more important than someone else. You're so heartless, so heartless." Wu Yen turned his head around. His hand couldn't help but tremble when he turned his head. A long strip of apple skin was neatly sliced open before it fell to the ground with a clatter. Only a tiny bit of skin remained on the apple. Wu Yan's face stiffened. He angrily glared at Kwang San, peeled off the last bit of skin from the apple, and threw it on a plate at the side. How could it be said? It was very childish, so much so that the sickly girl couldn't help but laugh. Wu Yen rolled his eyes at Kwang San. He then looked at Kwang San and nodded. Looks like your wounds have healed. As expected of an elf, your recovery ability is really strong. Sherdao, can I take it that you're making fun of me? Kwang San narrowed her eyes and looked straight at Wu Yan's wine-red pupils. Speaking of recovery ability, Kwang San didn't think that her natural recovery ability could be compared with this guy who couldn't die. She didn't know who else could be compared with Wu Yen in terms of recovery ability. Of course, it wasn't a special ability. Wu Yen smiled embarrassedly, trying to evade the topic. Since your wounds have healed, what do you plan to do? Wu Yan's face turned serious as he looked at Kwang San. Although Kwang San had already given up on her obsession, maybe it was just a moment of hesitation. Maybe this time, Kwang San will start to be stubborn again. Hearing Wu Yan's words, Kwang San's smile slowly disappeared. She lowered her head and became silent. Wu Yan didn't say anything. He quietly waited for Kwang San's choice. For a moment, the entire room fell into silence. After a long time, Wu Yan's heart began to feel a little nervous. Kwang San's voice slowly came from under her bangs. It echoed throughout the room. If I choose to continue to change the past, what will you do? Wu Yan stared blankly. His wine-red pupils swept towards Kwang San's face under her bangs. He said loudly, "If you choose to continue to persist in a wrong idea, I will continue to beat you until the day you wake up." After that, the room fell into silence again. Kwang San kept her head down. Under her long bangs, her expression couldn't be seen clearly. Wu Yan could only see Kwang San's thin shoulders gently trembling, as if she was struggling with something, until a moment later, a sigh came from under Kwang San's bangs and passed into Wu Yan's ears. Kwang San raised her head with a signature evil smile on her face. With a sweet and tender voice, she said to Wu Yan, "Then, Sherdao, please advise me in the future." Wu Yan stared blankly for a moment, then he reacted with an ecstatic expression. Looking at Kwang San's evil smile, for the first time, Wu Yan felt that her smile was so cute. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. After all, Kwang San was the most troublesome elf to deal with. Now that she finally acknowledged his existence, how could Wu Yan not be happy? One has to say, Kurumi's change of heart is a rare occurrence. If Wu Yan and Kurumi's doppelganger didn't reveal their feelings to each other in the zoo, if Wu Yan didn't defeat Kurumi when she was at her craziest, if Wu Yan didn't empathize with her, if he didn't empathize with her, changing her mind would be harder than ascending the heavens. With a series of factors, plus the previous blow, Kwang San finally acknowledged him. From a certain point of view, Wu Yan's previous idea was correct. For Kwang San, words had completely lost their effect, and actions couldn't move her heart. Only pain could make her heart waver a little. At that time, the right words would be useful. It can only be said that this was a rather tortuous experience for both Wu Yan and Kwang San. Wu Yan exchanged another pair of sealing bracelets from the system's item list. He handed the red bracelet to Kwang San. "Since you know about 10 fragrance and the others, you should know the use of this bracelet, right?" Kwang San took the sealing bracelet and stared at it. She seemed to be in a daze. She seemed to be reminiscing about something, and she seemed to be in a daze. "As long as I wear this sealing bracelet, everything about me will completely change. There will no longer be numbing killing, no longer have the obsession to prove my existence, no longer have the ignorance of abandoning the past, no longer have the confusion of the future path." Thinking of this, Kwang San couldn't help but feel a little tired and uncomfortable, but more than that, she felt relieved. At least, she no longer had no sense of direction. Finally, Kwang San moved and put the red sealing bracelet on her hand. The next moment, the sealing bracelet automatically adjusted to a suitable size. The red bracelet matched Kwang San's blood-colored gothic dress very well, as if it was part of Kwang San's spiritual equipment. Following Wu Yan's joyful seal, the bracelet on Kwang San's hand emitted a light. Then, an inexplicable clear stream came out of the bracelet and flowed into Kwang San's body. The clear stream flowed everywhere in Kwang San's body. Wherever it passed, Kwang San's spiritual energy would follow the clear stream and rush towards the next source of spiritual energy. After an unknown amount of time, all of Kwang San's spiritual energy followed the clear stream. After bringing out all the elven energy, the clear stream stopped flowing. Then it drew an arc and surrounded all the elven energy like a cage, imprisoning all the elven energy. Kwang San could feel that after the spiritual energy was imprisoned, the clear stream shook violently and sank into the deepest part of her body with the imprisoned spiritual energy. Then, a circle of red lines appeared on Wu Yan's sealing bracelet. At the same time, the gothic dress on Kwang San's body slowly disappeared under Kwang San's astonished expression, revealing her smooth and delicate body. Chapter 488. 2 ponytails of different lengths were released from Kurumi's head at the same time her gothic dress disappeared. Her long black hair flowed down her back like a waterfall, making her look a bit more delicate. Her bangs swept past the corner of her eyes, hiding the golden clock on her left eye. Her remaining wine-red eye involuntarily glanced at her own body. Her eyes were filled with astonishment as if she couldn't adapt to the sudden change in the situation. Not long after, her revealing Gothic dress turned into red sparks and disappeared from the room. Kurumi's perfect figure, her white body was revealed to Wu Yan. Wu Yan's mouth slowly widened until it formed an O shape. Wu Yan looked at Kurumi's naked body and her round breasts. When Wu Yan saw the red sparks, he felt his nose itch. He couldn't stay calm anymore. He had just witnessed Kotori and the other elves being stripped of their clothes. How could he have forgotten that the elves' power was sealed, and their spiritual equipment would disappear along with it? On the other side, Kurumi finally reacted to the accident of her body being exposed. The shock on her face turned into evil. She stared at Wu Yan with her wine-red pupils. As if she could see through his thoughts, Kurumi laughed. Sherdao, did you forget or did you do it on purpose? You're the only one who knows. Wu Yan abruptly regained his senses. He looked at Kurumi, who was still grinning at him. She didn't seem to care about her naked body at all. She waved her hands in panic. No, I really forgot. Wu Yan hurriedly explained. His eyes kept glancing at Kurumi, making his explanation unconvincing. I see. Kurumi narrowed her eyes and smiled seductively. She didn't even try to cover her body. Instead, she arched her body and placed her hands on the bed. Actually, I didn't mean to ask Shido to explain. If Shido wants to see, you can do it anytime. If it's Shido. Wu Yan shuddered as he looked at Kurumi. She had a light pink blush on her cheeks. She looked very seductive. Her white and translucent body made him uneasy. He turned his head away with great difficulty. You should find something to wear first. Wu Yan's face was full of reluctance when he said that. 2 streaks of tears flowed down his cheeks, telling others how untrue his words were. Shido is really. Kurumi touched her lips and chuckled. I didn't expect you to have such a cute side. Cute. Wu Yan rolled his eyes. He didn't like how Kurumi used the word cute. He didn't know what to say, so he helplessly said, All right, stop teasing me, hurry up and find something to wear. Kurumi looked at Wu Yan, who was sweating profusely. She revealed an evil smile and slowly crawled out of the bed toward Wu Yan. Wu Yan's body stiffened when he saw this scene. Before he could react, Kurumi had already crawled to his side. She stretched out her hands and turned Wu Yan's body to face her. Every corner of Kurumi's body was seen by Wu Yan again. Shido, didn't you say it? My existence is only for you. Therefore, my everything belongs to you, Shido. Kurumi's seductive voice made Wu Yan's heart tremble. Her seductive giggles rang in his ears. This time, Wu Yan didn't turn his head. He stared at the pair of plump breasts in front of him. Kurumi's skin was as white as a pearl. Naturally, her pair of big breasts were white and shiny. They kept attacking Wu Yan's nerves. After a while, Wu Yan's eyes were filled with evil fire. Kurumi laughed. Her laughter was very evil and charming. She gently grabbed Wu Yan's hand and straightened her body. Her pair of plump breasts swayed in an arc. Do you want to touch it? It was a simple sentence, but it made Wu Yan's heart flutter. The evil fire in his heart rose. A rumbling sound came from his throat. In the silent room, it was unusually loud. Kurumi couldn't help but laugh. Kurumi seemed to have gotten an answer. Without waiting for Wu Yan to reply, she grabbed Wu Yan's hand and pressed it on her plump breasts. In the next moment, a soft feeling filled Wu Yan's palm. Wu Yan was stunned. He looked at his hands that were pressing on Kurumi's plump breasts. Feeling the soft feeling, a weak string in his heart suddenly snapped. His hands that were holding Kurumi's plump breasts tightened. Kurumi's smiling face shook. She let out a seductive moan and her body tensed up. Wu Yan kneaded Kurumi's plump breasts like kneading dough. He fiddled with her plump breasts without any pattern. The smooth and tender feeling was constantly transmitted to Wu Yan's heart. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes in pleasure. Kwang San arched her body, covering her mouth with one hand and supporting herself on the bed with the other hand. Her face blushed adorably. In her wine-red pupils, misty mist began to spread. Extremely enchanting moans escaped from Kwang San's red lips, causing the entire room to be filled with a pink and ambiguous atmosphere. Sherdao. Kurumi panted. Her eyes were blurred as she looked at Wu Yen, who was concentrating on kneading her breasts. Her moans were like extremely high alcohol content. When Wu Yen heard her moans, he began to feel a little drunk. While kneading, the two looked at each other. In their eyes, there was only each other's face. Their expressions gradually became lost. After an unknown amount of time, the two faces began to move closer to each other. When the soft sensation reached their hearts from their lips, they realized what they were doing. By the time they realized what they were doing, their two tongues had already started to entangle with each other in Kurumi's mouth. At the same time, Wu Yan's hands didn't stop at all. He continued to knead with increasing strength. Kurumi's body began to glow red. Her lips were covered by Wu Yan. A muffled moan could be heard from Wu Yan's mouth. This told Wu Yan that his actions were affecting Kurumi. After a long while, the two of them finally let go of each other's lips and looked at each other again. However, the two of them had different expressions. One of them had a satisfied and evil smile on his face, while the other had a blush on her face. Her eyes were blurred and she was panting. Gradually, Wu Yan began to feel unsatisfied. One of his hands that was kneading Kurumi's breasts began to slide down Kurumi's soft body. Kurumi's body violently trembled. As Wu Yan's hand moved down, her heart began to beat faster. Until a moment later, when her lower body was held in his hand, a deadly electric current rushed into her heart. She let out a long sigh. Her moans kept coming out of her mouth. They were getting louder and more urgent. Not long after, Kurumi was moaning in satisfaction. Her chest heaved up and down. Seeing this, Wu Yan's hand stopped moving. His expression changed. He wanted to cry but had no tears. That's it? What should I do? Perhaps Kurumi saw Wu Yan's depression. She got up from the bed while gasping for breath. She came to Wu Yan's side and squatted down. Seeing this, Wu Yan was stunned. Could it be? In the next moment, as Kurumi lowered her head, Wu Yan sucked in a breath of cold air and closed his eyes. His face was filled with satisfaction. Chapter 489. A strong sense of excitement rushed into Wu Yan's mind. Wu Yan's face was full of satisfaction. He couldn't help but sigh. His heart was slightly excited. This was the first time someone was willing to do something like this for Wu Yan. In the past, no matter if it was the shy Kaisha-sama, the arrogant Railgun, the bold Jusama, or the obedient Ikaros, none of them were willing to do such a thing for Wu Yan. There were countless times when Wu Yan had bad intentions, but he didn't dare to take the risk of being sliced by force. Unexpectedly, Kurumi, who had only known Wu Yan for a few days and met less than 10 times, took the initiative to accept his first time. How could Wu Yan not be excited? It can be seen that Kurumi had never done something like this before. Her movements were very jerky. There were a few times when she almost bit down. Her sharp teeth scraped against his skin. While Wu Yan was enjoying it, he was also scared to the extreme. However, after a few more attempts, Kurumi seems to have grasped a few tricks. She's able to control her strength very well. This allowed Wu Yan to relax and he started enjoying himself. After an unknown amount of time, Wu Yan exhaled. Kurumi also let out a whimper. Then, the sound of her throat rolling continuously rang. Hearing this, Wu Yan's evil fire that had just subsided suddenly surged again. He began to pant heavily. His wine-red pupils emitted a wisp of fire. He abruptly stretched out his hands and picked up Kurumi, who was squatting under him. Ignoring her slightly flickering and panicked expression, he pulled her into his arms, hugged her waist, and then fiercely pressed her down. After an almost inaudible sound, Kurumi's face paled. She raised her snow-white neck and showed a painful expression. However, in this pain, there was also a strong sense of excitement and joy. She was indeed a sickly girl. She found joy in pain. She felt pain and joy at the same time. She was simply born to be a submissive. Although in terms of personality, Kurumi was more like a top of course, Wu Yen didn't dare to move now. Otherwise, even if Kurumi was happy, he wouldn't be able to get through it. Anyway, he had already settled in. What happened next was just a matter of time. The two hugged each other like this, quietly overlapping each other. After a long time, perhaps the pain had passed. Kurumi raised her head and looked at Wu Yen in a daze. She gasped and said, "Sherdao is really bad. Didn't you consent? Didn't you say that everything is mine?" Wu Yen smiled slyly, making Kurumi a bit angry. But soon, Kurumi smiled and leaned against Wu Yen. She gently hugged Wu Yen. The soft flesh of her chest kept rubbing against Wu Yen. This made Wu Yen's lust rise a lot. She slowly straightened her body. The friction and pain made Kurumi's delicate body tremble. But she still propped herself up and then sat down again. But Kwang-san gasped for breath. Although her movements weren't big, this was already the maximum that the current Kwang-san could do. Pleasure and pain coexisted, causing her entire body to be powerless. However, she still unwaveringly persisted in her actions. Gradually, Kurumi seemed to have found the feeling. The pain gradually disappeared, leaving only the purest pleasure. Kurumi's originally pale face began to redden. Her undulating speed also increased. Her pair of large breasts swayed up and down with her movements, making Wu Yen feel a bit dizzy. Wu Yen naturally didn't stay idle. His two large hands reached towards Kurumi's chest and began to knead the most magical part of her body. This made Kurumi feel even more excited. She let out a sound that made people's blood boil. As time passed, Kurumi began to lose herself. She fell into an inexplicable pleasure. She couldn't distinguish the scene in front of her. There was only one thought left in her mind, and that was to move. The pink halo on her body became darker and darker. Gradually, it turned red. At this moment, Kurumi seemed to be covered in a layer of red gauze. It added a bit of ambiguous atmosphere, making Wu Yen almost suffocate. Wave after wave of pleasure assaulted Kurong-san's nerves. She felt like she was flying into the clouds. The pleasure was surging like a tsunami, making Kurong-san moan tirelessly. She repeated the same movements. At a certain point, Kurumi let out a loud gasp. After another wave of pleasure, she finally reached the peak. She weakly laid on Wu Yan's body. Her face was bright red. Her mouth kept letting out soft moans. Her lips trembled as if she was kissing Wu Yan's chest. Her chest was violently moving up and down. "Is it comfortable?" After tidying up Kurumi's messy hair and kissing her cheek, Wu Yan smiled and said. His tone was very annoying. After all, he didn't move at all from the beginning. He let Kurumi do whatever she wanted. Her strength was almost exhausted. Kurumi opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, when she opened her mouth, all that came out was gasping. She couldn't make any other sound. Seeing this, Wu Yan smiled again. He stood up and hugged Kurumi with both hands. Her whole body was on top of him. Such a violent movement made Kurumi moan. Maintaining this position, Wu Yan moved his body and quickly pounded Kurumi in his arms. Kurumi raised her head as if she was struck by lightning. She kept moaning and sweating. The pleasure stimulated Kurumi's mind. Her moans changed until they were nothing more than moans. Kurumi's mind is in a blur. She subconsciously wrapped her arms around Wu Yan's neck. She closed her eyes. She put all her work into her throat. Not long after, Kurumi reached the peak again. Her long sigh spread to every corner of the room. The 10-second-long moan made Kurumi use the last of her strength. She was like a pile of mud lying on top of Wu Yan. She only had the strength to open her mouth and moan. However, someone obviously didn't want to let Kurumi go. Ever since he came to this world of dating, Wu Yan hasn't enjoyed this kind of treatment except for the occasional flirting with Kotori and that time in the hot spring. Wu Yan has no less than 10 wives, but this time, not even one came with him. At home, Kotori can't do it openly because Shirori is there. In addition, Kotori's sister Mode hasn't appeared for a long time. Wu Yan didn't dare to go to Kotori. As for Toka, She looks like she's easy to push down. However, looking at her innocent and romantic look, Wu Yen didn't have the guts to do it. As for Yoshino, forget it, she's cute but pushing her would be a lot of pressure. Thus, Wu Yen can only look on helplessly as the cute girls jumped up and down in front of him. None of them managed to get a bite. How could Wu Yen, who used to play pa-pa-pa games with his wives every day, endure this? If this goes on, he'll get sick. Now that Kurumi delivered herself to his door, he'll feel sorry for the heavens if he doesn't do it. His eyes burning with lust, Wu Yen pushed Kurumi down on the bed and turned her body to lie in front of him. Wu Yen got on top of Kurumi's back and started to move impatiently. Not long after, Kwang San's moans once again resounded through the entire room. Chapter 490. In the sky above Heavenly Palace City, inside Fraxinus, in a ward specially used for the sick and injured to rest, a series of continuous panting sounds rang out. There were no pedestrians outside the door. Even if there were pedestrians, unless they completely pressed their ears to the door, they would not be able to hear anything. People could not help but sigh at the soundproofing effect of the ward. Of course, if someone were to discover the secret inside the room, they'd definitely curse out loud. After all, if you ask who's inside the room, the first thing that comes to mind is the injured and the injured. Isn't he afraid of being despised for having sex with the injured or the injured in the room? It's really unbelievable. An hour ago, Kurumi was the owner of this room and she was still in a coma. But now, she's doing something that's both physically and mentally draining. It's really hard to say what's good for her. You have to sigh at the conscience of a certain wolf. He actually pushed an injured person. However, Kurumi's injuries have mostly healed while she was in a coma. Although she's still lacking in physical strength, she's fine in other areas. You can see that from how she's still touching Wu Yen. Kurumi didn't actually want to have sex with Wu Yen, but because of the disappearance of the spiritual equipment and Wu Yan's performance, Kurumi couldn't help but want to have sex with him. As for the consequences of doing that, Kurumi thought she'd just let him have sex with her and she'd help him deal with it afterward. Who knew that she'd be the one to pay the price? Even if Kurumi didn't dislike the result, she'd still be angry. Of course, it's too late to talk about this now. After an unknown amount of time had passed, a long moaning sound once again sounded. The intermittent moaning gradually weakened. Other than some faintly discernible panting sounds, there was no other sound in the room. Wu Yen was lying there with a refreshed expression on his face. His wine-red eyes were slightly narrowed. Kurumi was lying on top of him. Her face was red, her breasts were violently moving up and down. Her breasts were constantly rubbing against Wu Yan's chest, almost making Wu Yen burn again. After panting for a while, Kurumi finally couldn't bear the burden and slowly closed her eyes. Her breathing also became regular, telling Wu Yen that she was tired. "You've worked hard." Stroking Kurumi's long black hair, Wu Yen said with a guilty tone. Originally, with Kurumi's elf body, even if the two had sex for a long time, she wouldn't be so tired that she'd fall asleep. Unfortunately, Kurumi's injuries had just healed, and her strength was sealed, so her recovery was greatly reduced. Wu Yen, on the other hand, had been holding back for a long time, so he wanted to have a good time. Naturally, the weaker one would be lying on the ground. Moreover, even if she didn't get stronger, Kurumi still wouldn't be Wu Yan's opponent, let alone now. But it must be said that even if it was the first time, Kurumi still showed amazing talent. Her injuries had just healed, but she was still able to accompany Wu Yen to this point. She was indeed the most unrestrained elf among all the elves. Hugging the sleeping Kurumi, Wu Yen caressed her soft and smooth back. Inadvertently, he touched the sealing bracelet on Kurumi's wrist. Suddenly, he remembered that Kurumi seemed to be the last target of his second dungeon mission. The 4 elves required for the second dungeon mission had already put on the sealing bracelet. Then, the second dungeon mission should be completed already, right? Since the second dungeon mission was completed, the third dungeon mission should also be activated, right? Reaching out his hand, he opened the system projection and pulled up the mission column. Sure enough, the second dungeon mission had already been completed. The third dungeon mission had also been activated. Dungeon World, Date Battle. Dungeon Mission, Collect. Mission 1. Materialize the spatial earthquake phenomenon that occurred all over the world and collect it. Current progress, October 10th, completed. Quest reward, 50,000 equipment points, item points, ability points, summoning points. Mission 2. Use the Ring of Sealing to seal the elven powers of storyline characters Yuso Toho, Yoshino, Tokisaki Kurumi, and Itsuka Kotori. Completed. Quest reward, any 2 pieces of equipment below level B will be upgraded by 1 level, excluding level B and Gate of Babylon. Mission 3. Use the ability of The Night Never Dies by bare hands to turn Latatosker's airship, Fraxinus, into a relic and store it in the Gate of Babylon. Quest reward, level up by 1. When the content of the third mission appeared in front of Wu Yan's eyes, Wu Yan's finger, which was pointing at the system's projection, trembled and almost poked into Kurisu's mouth. His wine-red pupils widened as he repeatedly cursed in his heart. Using the ability of Knights Never Die by bare hands to turn Latatosker's airship, Fraxinus, into a relic? You want to keep it in the Gate of Babylon? Kotori will chop me into pieces. Wu Yan's lips trembled in anger as he looked at the third mission again. After making sure he wasn't mistaken, Wu Yan couldn't bear to look at it anymore. Fraxinus was the base of Latatosker. Not only did it possess the most advanced technology in Latatosker, it also had a specialized elven analysis system. If Fraxinus disappeared one day, Latatosker would basically be disbanded. Yet, under such circumstances, she still wanted him to turn Fraxinus into a relic? Wasn't that the same as making an enemy out of Latatosker? Even if Kotori agreed to it, the other members of Latatosker would never agree to it, let alone Kotori. Although as the commander of Ratatosker, Kotori's orders were absolute, when the time came, where would the members of Ratatosker go? If he were to turn Fraxinus into a noble phantasm, then Fraxinus would become his exclusive item. Even if he allowed others to use it, they would have to approve of it in their hearts. This mission is both simple and difficult. The simple part is that he only needs to get Kotori's approval. The difficult part is that the other members of Latatosker don't know how to deal with it. Should he rob it? If he did that, even Kotori wouldn't forgive him, let alone the others. After staring at the third mission for a long time, Wu Yan sighed. He couldn't figure out what the other members of Latatosker would think about it. Wu Yan could only put it aside for now. Since he wasn't in a hurry to leave this world, he'll put the third mission aside for now. He'll deal with it when Kotori has a showdown with her. The reward of this quest, on the other hand, made his heart skip a beat. Leveling up by 1 seems like a small amount, but if he could level up by 1 level, he would be able to reach level 70 and become a tier 8 powerhouse. That would save him a lot of leveling time. Due to the difficulty of the mission, Wu Yan could only give it up for now. Beep. The second mission has been completed. Reward, any 2 pieces of equipment below level 8 will be upgraded by 1 level. Please make your choice. Warning. This does not include the upgrade of the equipment, excluding the Gate of Babylon as well. The system notification rang in Wu Yan's ears. Wu Yan was stunned for a moment, but when he came back to his senses, his face lit up with excitement. Wu Yan has been eyeing the reward of the second dungeon for a very long time. Chapter 491. Wu Yan already had a plan for the second dungeon mission reward, which was to upgrade any 2 pieces of equipment below B grade by 1 level. If he succeeded, not only would he receive rewards, but he would also be able to upgrade his abilities. To be precise, he would be able to upgrade the power of the Gate of Babylon. Ever since he obtained the Gate of Babylon, Wu Yan would convert some iron sand into a noble phantasm and put it into the Gate of Babylon every day, trying to upgrade the Gate of Babylon. As for the result, he could tell by looking at his character status that his Gate of Babylon was still at level C. This also showed how difficult it was to upgrade the Gate of Babylon. If he were to use equipment to upgrade the Gate of Babylon, it would take a long time. When the reward of Quest 2 appeared, an idea popped up in his mind. What if he used the reward of Quest 2 to upgrade the Iron Sands level? Would that work? The level of the Gate of Babylon was supported by the Iron Sand that was converted into a Grade D equipment. If the Gate of Babylon were to lose the Iron Sand that was piled up like a mountain, the Gate of Babylon would revert back to its original form, a Grade D equipment. Perhaps because of this, even though Wu Yen kept adding Iron Sand into the Gate of Babylon, he could not upgrade the Gate of Babylon to B grade. If he were to use other equipment to upgrade the Gate of Babylon, Wu Yen would definitely go bankrupt, and it would only be a matter of time. Wu Yen had spent a lot of effort to upgrade the Gate of Babylon. After all, it was such a special equipment, it would be a waste to let it grow on its own. However, it was extremely difficult to upgrade it with other equipment. When the reward for the second dungeon mission appeared, Wu Yen saw a possibility. Upgrade the Iron Sand in the Gate of Babylon, and upgrade the Gate of Babylon again. This was not impossible. Although the amount of Iron Sand was boundless, at the end of the day, it could only be considered a piece of equipment. The system could not possibly change a grain of Iron Sand from D grade to C grade, right? If he could upgrade the Iron Sand from a D grade common armament to a C grade rare armament, Wu Yen did not believe that he could not upgrade the Gate of Babylon. If this method worked, not only would the Gate of Babylon be upgraded, but the Iron Sand would also become a C grade rare armament. Wu Yen would have a terrifying amount of rare armaments. By then, the C-grade Iron Sand Sword and the B-grade Gate of Babylon would be so powerful that if Wu Yen were to fight Jafar again, he would be able to kill him with the Gate of Babylon. Even if he were to fight Kurumi again, Wu Yen was confident that he would be able to gain the upper hand without resorting to any tricks. Wu Yen wanted to laugh out loud at the thought of having a gold armament treasure of Babylon with a pile of rare armaments. If he was not afraid of waking Kurumi up, Wu Yen would definitely do so. After all, even the glittering golden fate was only a rare armament in the Gate of Babylon. Only noble artifacts like EA and Heaven's Lock could be considered as gold armaments. If this idea works, Wu Yan's Gate of Babylon would be able to match up to Jin Ling's Gate of Babylon. Even if he can't match up to Jin Ling's Gate of Babylon in terms of gold armaments, his meteor shower is definitely not weaker than EA's Gate of Babylon. They might even be on the same level. Beep. Dungeon Quest 2 completed. Reward: any 2 B grade and below equipment will be upgraded by 1 level. Please make your choice. Warning: not including B grade equipment upgrade. Not including the Gate of Babylon. Perhaps it was because Wu Yen did not make his choice. The system beeped again, bringing Wu Yen back to reality. Wu Yen took a deep breath and looked at the sleeping Kurumi. System: upgrade the level of the Iron Sand. After that, Wu Yen was a little nervous. He purposely used the vague concept of the Iron Sand to see if it would work. The next moment, the system beeped again, directly into Wu Yan's mind. Hearing the system beep, Wu Yen was stunned for a moment, then he was overjoyed. Ding! The level of the Iron Sand has been upgraded. The current level is C grade. As soon as the system beeped, the Iron Sand that were lying quietly in the Gate of Babylon suddenly lit up with a dazzling light. At the same time, blood-red vein-like patterns appeared on their bodies. That was the phenomenon of the night never died by bare hands. Under the dazzling light, the blood-red veins started to vibrate slowly like a heart. An inexplicable force worked within the Iron Sand. Under the effect of this inexplicable force, the Iron Sand that was as big as a mountain and as big as a sea started to transform. Nothing could be seen from the outside, but inside, the quality of the Iron Sand was constantly increasing under the cleansing of an inexplicable power. Moreover, it had reached a certain critical point, and in the end, it even broke through this critical point with lightning speed. When the critical point was broken through, the blood-red veins on the Iron Sand flashed fiercely, then gradually dimmed until it completely disappeared. As the light disappeared, the blood-red veins on the Iron Sand sank into the Iron Sand. If one looked closely, they would notice that the color of the veins on the Iron Sand had deepened a lot. When the Iron Sand was upgraded to C grade and became a rare armament, another system beeped. Ding! The level of the Gate of Babylon has been upgraded. The current level is B grade. Character: Wu Yen. Abilities: True Ancestor Bloodline, Endless Martial Training, Night Never Died by Bare Hands, Electromancer, LV5, Equipment, Gate of Babylon, B Grade, Summons, Misaka Mikoto, Katsura Hinajiku, Ikaros, Astria, Flandra. Scarlet, Shokuhu Misaki, Kinohara Sai, Frenda, Takitsubu Riku, Misaka Sisters, 20,000, Equipment Points, 170000 Item Points, 50,000 Ability Points, 170000 Summoning Points, 230000 Level, 69. Finally, it's Level B, Gate of Babylon. Wu Yan let out a sigh of relief when he heard the system beep. The nervousness in his heart dissipated, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. He was worried that his trick wouldn't work and the Iron Sands level wouldn't be upgraded. Fortunately, the final result was undoubtedly gratifying. Not only did he obtain a pile of rare armaments, but his Gate of Babylon had also become a gold armament. With a gold armament level Gate of Babylon and the piles of rare armaments inside, Wu Yan believes that the Gate of Babylon will become a killing machine in the future. His strength has increased by a lot. Of course, that's not the only thing that got upgraded. System, upgrade Nippon no Shana's level. Muttering in his heart, this time he's not going to be nervous. And I know Shana's level hasn't reached B yet, and unlike Tetsu, it's not a cheap trick to raise its level, it's a piece of cake. Ding! Nippon no Shana's level has been upgraded. Current level is B grade. The same thing that happened to the Iron Sand happened to Nippon no Shana again. However, due to the large amount of Iron Sand, the phenomenon caused by Nippon no Shana's level was smaller. After a while, Nippon no Shana's level was upgraded to B grade, a gold armament. With B grade Nippon no Shana, Wu Yan's strength increased again. Chapter 492. The upgrade of Gate of Babylon and Shana made Wu Yan, who was in a good mood after having a good time with Kurumi, even better. Even though his level and abilities didn't increase, the upgrade of his equipment was directly related to his strength. Forget about Gate of Babylon, even Nianden no Shana was a sharp blade in his hands before it was upgraded. After all, the equipment itself has the ability to control flames. Nianden no Shana is a rare armament, but it's already a gold armament. In addition to the meteor shower, Wu Yan alone has 3 gold armaments. If the powerhouses of the Spalier world knew about this, they would be so jealous that they would jump off a building. Gold armaments are equipment that only Tier 9 powerhouses can equip. Even in the Spalier World Academy, only Princess Sylph was able to get her hands on a gold armament when she was only Tier 8. Now, a guy who hasn't even reached Tier 8 has 3, and each of them are at the pinnacle of gold armaments. The group of people who would be affected by this fact would most likely be the 9th level old monsters. After all, no one had ever heard of a 9th level ranker who possessed 2 or more gold armaments at the same time. With 3 gold armaments, Wu Yan is already strong enough to challenge those of a higher tier. If he goes up against Jaffer now, Jaffer won't even have the chance to enter Berserk state. This is also why rare armaments are common in the Spalier World Academy while gold armaments are only owned by one person. Even though there's only a difference of 1 level, the former is suitable for Tier 7 and 8 while the latter is suitable for Tier 9. They can't be compared at all. That's why Wu Yan couldn't help but be in a bad mood when he thought about the fact that he has 3 gold armaments. Of course, this good mood disappeared when he saw the various points on his character panel, especially the 50,000 item points. After exchanging for 4 pairs of sealing bracelets, Wu Yan's item points are nearing the bottom again. Wu Yan sighed and comforted himself. It's fine. 800,000 item points for 4 cute girls. It's worth it no matter how you look at it, right? That's true. At the mention of sealing bracelets, Wu Yan couldn't help but look at his hands. Currently, he has 3 sealing bracelets on one hand and 2 sealing bracelets on the other. The 5 sealing bracelets occupied his hands and they almost covered his entire wrist. It's a very odd sight. Wu Yan couldn't help but frown. System, is there a way to reduce the number of sealing bracelets without weakening their effects? Wu Yan asked the system in his mind. User, Because the items are of the same quality, you can choose to combine all the sealing rings so that you can control the paired sealing rings. You want to merge all the sealing rings together? Wu Yan's eyes lit up. How do I do that? User, you don't need to do anything. You only need to apply to the system. Oh. Then, system, apply to combine the sealing bracelets. Beep. User has applied to combine the sealing bracelets. 50,000 item points will be required. Do you wish to pay? The system's cold voice caused his smile to freeze. Within 1,000th of a second, he cursed the system 1,000 times and then OOXX 1,000 times. You only need to apply to the system? I should have known that the system is a scammer since ancient times. The saddest thing is, this isn't the first time I've been scammed. Glancing at his character status, he saw the item points at 50,000. Wu Yan wanted to know why combining the sealing aura would give him exactly 50,000 points, no more, no less. Is this the system's aim? Wu Yan, who had just finished a round of lovemaking and was in high spirits, suddenly felt a pain in his lower body. It was called a faint sadness. Rubbing his forehead, Wu Yan muttered weakly, "Yes, ding. The sealing bracelets have begun to combine. The combining function has been activated. The next time you combine the sealing bracelets, user will no longer need to pay item points." Hearing the system's voice, Wu Yan's gloomy mood improved a little. At the same time, the 5 white sealing bracelets on his hands began to change. Between the 5 sealing bracelets, a thread with flowing light suddenly grew out and connected to the closest sealing bracelet. As the 5 sealing bracelets connected, the 5 sealing bracelets began to vibrate. Then, under Wu Yan's astonishment, the 5 identical sealing bracelets, except for the first one on his right hand, all shattered into pieces after a crisp sound. Before Wu Yan could react, the 4 shattered sealing bracelets paused in midair and shot towards the last remaining sealing bracelet. After hovering around it for a while, they merged into it. Under Wu Yan's gaze, the remaining sealing bracelet, which originally only had 1 red pattern on its surface, suddenly had 4 identical red patterns. The 5 red patterns were close to each other, with a negligible distance between them. They complemented each other perfectly, as if they were made by heaven. These 5 red patterns each represented a seal. When the red patterns disappeared, the seal would be released. Of course, this was only possible with Wu Yan's approval. Now that there was only 1 sealing bracelet left, it didn't look as out of place as before. This made Wu Yan's expression much better. Holding the sealing bracelet in his hand, Wu Yan pursed his lips and sighed. Looks like when I get back to the Spalier world, I'll have to think of a way to get some points to use. The items in the system can be said to have endless uses. There's only things you can't think of, there's nothing you can't find. Without points, you can only stare at the items in the system. That's not a good feeling. Moreover, the most fundamental purpose of coming to this world, which was to obtain the special item to unlock the mysterious crystal, has been achieved. Next, it's time to properly raise my level. When I get back to the Spalier world, I'll choose a suitable dungeon for leveling. The time ratio between the Spalier world and the dungeon is 1:100. If I don't die in such a good dungeon, I'll be struck to death by lightning. After making up his mind, Wu Yan glanced at the last quest in this world. He sighed and smiled bitterly. I wonder if Coterie and the others will agree to let me take Fraxinus away. It shouldn't be a big problem. Wu Yan muttered uncertainly. He couldn't make up his mind. This is a big problem. Logically speaking, if he tells Coterie about his background, it shouldn't be a big problem. After all, the main purpose of Fraxinus was to help Ratatoskr with their strategy against the elves. If Kirin completed the last dungeon quest, even if he took Fraxinus with him, the world would still be frozen in time. If time is frozen, Fraxinus' role will be negligible. As long as he doesn't return to this world, the elves won't appear and everyone will be frozen in time. What's there to worry about? That's why this problem is both simple and difficult. After pondering for a while, Wu Yan sighed. Let's put it aside for now. Chapter 493. Inside the room, Wu Yen is dressed in black. He turned around and gently moved Kurumi to the center of the bed. He covered her with a blanket and hid her seductive body under it. Wu Yen clapped his hands and nodded in satisfaction. Stroking Kurumi's long bangs, he kissed her smooth forehead. Kurumi seemed to have sensed something as she wrinkled her cute little nose. She tilted her head slightly before revealing a serene expression which amused Wu Yen. Who would have thought that the usually arrogant Tokisaki Kurumi would have such a cute side to her when she's asleep? Wu Yen shook his head and looked at Kurumi. He turned around and walked out the door. Fraxinus, command room. The members of Ratatoskr were analyzing the battle that took place in the open space of the zoo. For an organization that specializes in elves, every piece of information about elves is invaluable. For example, in the previous battle, a total of 4 elves appeared and fought each other. This is something that has never happened in the past. Therefore, this battle has become a good topic for research. Everyone only hoped that from this battle, they would be able to analyze a little bit of information that would be useful when facing the elves in the future. If that was the case, everyone's hard work would not have been in vain. Naturally, as Ratatoskr's commander, Kotori is also present. She almost lost control of her power after it was unsealed. It's best for her to rest now that she's sealed again. But for Kotori, it's better for her to check on the progress of her work rather than lying on the bed. Since there aren't any elves around, there's nothing important for her to do. Kotori only needs to sit on the command desk and watch her subordinates work. Not only will she not be bored, she'll also encourage them to be active. For example, "Oh, the commander is watching over there. Kanazuki Kyuhei. I feel like I'm full of power." Kanazuki Kyuhei, who used to be one of the most handsome men in the world, had flames burning in his eyes. He opened his mouth wider than a hippopotamus and jumped up and down in the command room. His image as a handsome man was completely destroyed. He's shouting about how he's full of power, but Kanazuki Kyuhei is just like Kotori. As a vice commander, he's more relaxed when there aren't any elves around. That's why he's jumping up and down with nothing to do. Kotori's pretty face started to get impatient as she listened to Kanazuki Kyuhei's brainless shouting. Kanazuki Kyuhei kept moving around in her sight and it's getting annoying. After a while, Kotori's head was filled with Kotori's words. At some point, Kotori couldn't hold it in any longer. She snapped her fingers and the sound echoed clearly in the command room. Almost at the same time, the automatic door of the command room was opened. 2 muscular brothers ran in and propped Kanazuki Kyuhei up from the floor. Kanazuki Kyuhei's expression froze. When he came back to his senses, he started crying. "Commander, please spare my life. Please, for the sake of my dedication in the past, please spare me this once." Kotori didn't even turn her head as she said expressionlessly, "Since you're so energetic, I'll find something for you to do. Next, you'll have to spend a day digging holes in the place you're going to. After you've dug all the empty spaces, you'll have to fill up all the holes." Kanazuki Kyuhei's crying face disappeared. Instead, he started shouting excitedly. He was led away by his brothers as he cheered and left the command room. Wu Yen saw his 2 brothers coming out of the command room. He shuddered and dodged to the side. It was then that Wu Yen saw Kanazuki Kyuhei being propped up by his brothers. Wu Yan's lips twitched as he watched Kanazuki and Kyuhei disappear into the distance. Wu Yan's eyebrows kept twitching. After a while, he calmed down and returned to his usual self. He headed back to the command room. His instincts are telling him that it's best if he doesn't get involved in this matter. Kotori glanced at the door. She raised an eyebrow when she saw Wu Yen coming in. She clicked her tongue and turned her head away. "What's wrong? Don't you need to watch over Tokisaki Kurumi?" Kotori's tone sounded disdainful, but Wu Yen could hear a hint of annoyance in her voice. He didn't know if it's towards Kurumi, Wu Yen, or both. Wu Yen cursed in his mind and shrugged. "Kurumi has already woken up. It seems that she's fine, so I came over." "She woke up?" Kotori frowned. "She didn't cause any trouble, did she?" Based on Kurumi's past behavior, if she causes a ruckus in Fraxinus, the airship will be in big trouble. Kotori couldn't help but ask. If Wu Yen didn't object to her placing surveillance around Kurumi, Kurumi's ward would have been filled with surveillance cameras by now. Wu Yen obviously thought of this as well. His expression became a bit unnatural. He's glad that he didn't agree to Kotori's suggestion because he was concerned about Kurumi's feelings. Otherwise, their lovemaking in the room would have been broadcasted live on the screen in the command room. Wu Yen laughed dryly. Kotori, you don't have to worry about Kurumi anymore. She's wearing the sealing bracelet now. Even if she wants to cause trouble, she won't be able to. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire command room suddenly became incomparably silent. Kurumi is wearing the sealing bracelet? Kotori looked at Wu Yen with a pleasantly surprised expression. The other members of Ratatosker were also looking at him. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Wu Yen nodded with much difficulty. He felt very uncomfortable. Why are you all looking at me like that? Is there something wrong? How did you do it? Kotori asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Kurumi's strength was obvious to all. She was supposed to be the most difficult elf to capture, but now she was taken down by the person in front of them without them noticing. How could they not be curious? How did I do it? Wu Yen smiled embarrassedly. That's a good question. How do you want me to answer you? Kotori stared at Wu Yen for a moment before turning around. She asked Rain Murasame. How's the analysis of the elven AI? Murasame Rain sat on a facility on the side and pressed a few buttons on it. Indeed, Tokisaki Kurumi's psychic waves can't be detected. There's a 90% chance that the elf's power is sealed. It should be correct. That's great. In the command room, all the members of Ratatosker cheered happily. Kotori also let out a sigh of relief and smiled. One must know that ever since Kurumi appeared, she had caused a lot of headaches. Apart from her terrifying personality, her mental state was more or less unstable. In addition, she was an evil elf who had personally slain more than 10,000 people. For Ratatosker, who advocated for the salvation of the elves, this was an unprecedented problem. But now, this huge problem had been solved without anyone noticing. How could this not make everyone feel pleasantly surprised? Everyone looked at Wu Yen with eyes full of admiration and admiration. Chapter 494. It's really a miracle. Rain Murasame, who usually doesn't care about anything, was now full of emotion. She shared her analysis of Kurumi on the big screen in the command room and said, Tokisaki Kurumi's favorability bar was only half full before, but now it's full. How did he do it? Rain Murasame's last sentence was naturally directed at Wu Yen. Everyone on the scene saw Kurumi's max favorability on the big screen. Immediately, one by one, they used their worship skill on Wu Yen. Not only did he raise the favorability of such a difficult elf to max out, but he also completed the most important task of sealing her. This is a real god. Of course, in this worship there's also a lot of doubt. In addition, they were curious. They were curious about how Wu Yen got Kurumi. Chuckling dryly, he felt everyone's gaze on him. He felt his scalp tingling. At this moment, even if these people's gazes were filled with worship, it still made him feel like they're piercing his eyes. To be honest, Wu Yen was also surprised that Kurumi's favorability towards him was maxed out. He didn't know when Kurumi had such a deep impression of him. Kurumi's temperament is really hard to fathom. Wu Yen truly experienced the feeling of a woman's heart from Kurumi. If he didn't have the advantage and know the characters well, he's afraid that Kurumi wouldn't be able to wear the sealing bracelet. However, Wu Yen didn't know why Kurumi's favorability towards him was maxed out. Could it be that Kurumi has a setting where she'll be loyal to someone after being Papa? Rubbing his head in distress, Wu Yen sighed and said helplessly, Don't ask me how I did it, I'm also confused. Confused? How can you capture a girl when you're confused? At the same time, everyone flipped the tea table in their hearts. The worship and doubt in their eyes turned into speechlessness and disdain. Perhaps in their hearts, they thought that Wu Yen was faking it, a winner in life showing off in a roundabout way. If Wu Yen knew what they were thinking, he'd definitely go berserk. Is this showing off? Then what I did in the Tokuwadai dormitory with Sis Canon and Queen Sama, isn't that a glory? Kotori blinked. Based on her understanding of Wu Yen, if Wu Yen really wanted to show off, she would be able to tell. When she saw Wu Yan's helpless expression, Kotori knew that Wu Yen was confused himself. Putting a pearl in her mouth, she waved her hand. Well, forget it, Tokisaki Kurumi is sealed anyway. She's no longer a threat and we've achieved our goal. The process doesn't matter. Hearing Kotori's words, everyone suppressed their curiosity and turned around to continue their work. Wu Yen couldn't help but feel relieved. If they continue to force him, even Wu Yen himself might not be able to keep it a secret. Rolling in the sheets with Kurumi in the ward, looking around the command room, Wu Yen turned around and asked, "By the way, Kotori, where's you?" He hasn't recovered yet, he's still recuperating. Kotori glanced at Wu Yen and said in annoyance, "You's just a normal person, he's not you nor an elf. He took a bullet in the back, how can he recover so quickly?" "That's true." Wu Yen answered casually. He hesitated and asked, "Then, Kotori, what do you plan to do with Kurumi?" Kotori stopped licking her pearl for a moment before she calmed down and said casually, "Originally, everyone wanted to treat Tokisaki Kurumi as a criminal." "Criminal?" Wu Yen turned around and looked at Kotori. Kotori narrowed her eyes and continued, "No matter what, he's someone who killed more than 10,000 people. Even if Ratatosker wants to save the elves, a crime is a crime. Just like how humans are imprisoned for murder, from a normal person's point of view, Tokisaki Kurumi has to pay the price for his past actions." Wu Yen fell silent. He was struggling in his heart. Indeed, from an ordinary person's point of view, Kurumi had killed more than 10,000 people with her own hands. She was a heinous existence. If Kurumi was an ordinary person, she would have been executed 1,000 times. That would have been more than enough. If it was in the past, Wu Yen would have thought the same. But now, the value of human life isn't as important as before in Wu Yan's eyes. Although he doesn't view human life as an ant, the dead are already dead. He can't bring them with him when he's alive, and he can't bring them with him when he's dead. Wu Yan's hands are stained with the blood of countless people. During the treasure hunt in the supply town, Wu Yen killed as many people as Kurumi. If possible, Wu Yen doesn't want Kurumi to bear the consequences. Not only did he not do it in the past, but now, Kurumi is even more so for his woman. Thus, Wu Yen couldn't help but ask, "Is there no way to salvage the situation?" Kotori turned around, her red eyes stared at Wu Yen. She said with a bit of displeasure, "You seem to care a lot." "How can I not care?" Wu Yen bitterly smiled. "I believe elves are kind beings. Kurumi's hands are stained with blood, but she was forced to do so. If she wasn't hunted by humans, she wouldn't have ended up like this." "Kotori, I don't believe you can't tell if Kurumi's heart is kind or not." Kotori snorted and turned her head away. "If I didn't, she would have been in the shelter already." Wu Yen wasn't surprised, he was happy instead. "So, there's still room for negotiation in dealing with Kwang-san?" Kotori pursed her lips, she sighed and said in a bad mood, "Since Tokisaki Kurumi is an elf and her situation is special, she will be exiled to be monitored. If she commits any more crimes, she will be imprisoned." "Exiled to be monitored?" Wu Yen tilted his head in confusion. "What does that mean?" "That means," Kotori bit her lips, she said with a bit of reluctance, "Kurumi will be taken in, and she might even belong to our family." "Really?" Wu Yan's face lit up with joy, he said with a smile. Kotori was annoyed. "Don't be happy too early. That's just a preliminary decision. I haven't approved it yet. Don't forget, we don't have any extra space in our house to take in anyone. Even see when Nai sleeps with Shixiang." "That's true." Wu Yen was a bit troubled. At this moment, a delicate voice rang in everyone's ears at the same time as the automatic door opened. This caused the entire command room to fall silent. Era, you don't have to worry about that." Everyone stopped what they were doing. They looked up and saw Kurumi in her hospital gown walking in with a graceful smile on her face. She started walking towards Wu Yen. Wu Yen was confused. Kurumi hugged Wu Yan's arm and intimately leaned on him. I can share a room with Shido. What? Everyone exclaimed in shock, including Kotori. She stood up from her seat with a whoosh. Kurumi maintained her elegant smile. She looked at Kotori with fire in her eyes. Is there a problem? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.